A single choice can alter destiny. A single moment can rewrite history. In the vast cosmos of Dragon Ball, power determines everything. But what if the greatest hero the universe has ever known was born not as a forgotten low-class warrior, but as one of the most powerful Saiyan elites ever recorded? This is the story of Kakarot, son of Bardock, not the Kakarot who hit his head and became Goku, defender of Earth. This is the story of Kakarot, the elite whose power shook Planet Vegeta to its core and changed the fate of the universe forever. The sky burned crimson over Planet Vegeta, its harsh landscape bathed in the light of its red sun. The Saiyan race had called this world home for generations, conquering it from the Tuffles and building a warrior society that served as the ultimate military force for Lord Frieza. The Saiyans lived for battle, thrived in combat, and from birth were categorized by their power potential. Inside the Saiyan medical facility, Bardock stood with arms crossed, his battle-card face impassive as he watched his newborn son floating in the incubation chamber. Bardock had just returned from another conquest mission. His armor cracked and stained with the blood of his enemies and his own. He was a low-class warrior who had risen through sheer determination to lead his own squad. But in Science Society, bloodline and power level at birth determined your fate. Another low-class warrior, said the medical technician, checking the power reading on the scouter, power level of 2. Quite disappointing given your own combat record. Bardock showed no reaction. He had expected nothing more. His first son, Raditz, had also been born with a low power level. It was their fate as a low-class family. Even with his own accomplishments in battle, Bardock knew the rigid hierarchy of Saiyan society would never truly allow him to rise beyond his station. Kakarot, Bardock said, looking at his infant son. The boy had a wild man of black hair just like his own. Another low-class warrior, but he will make his own way. The medical technician was already moving toward the computer terminal to designate Kakarot for eventual shipment to a frontier world with weak inhabitants. A low-class Saiyan infant would be sent to conquer a world alone, and if he survived and succeeded, would earn his place among the Saiyan ranks. We will prepare him for deployment to planet Earth, said the technician. Primitive world, weak inhabitants. If he survives, perhaps he can be of some use to Lord Frieza. Bardock turned to leave. There was nothing more to see here. The fate of his second son was sealed just as his own had been in another life, another timeline. This is exactly what would happen. Kakarot would be sent to Earth, would hit his head and forget his Saiyan heritage, would become the Earthling known as Goku, and would ultimately become the greatest defender the universe had ever known. But this is not that story. As Bardock reached the door, a sudden alarm blared from the monitoring equipment. He turned back sharply, battle instincts immediately on alert. Impossible. The technician gasped, eyes wide with shock. The equipment must be malfunctioning. Bardock strode back to the incubation chamber. What is happening to my son? The technician frantically adjusted the controls, recalibrating the power scanners. The power readings are spiking. This cannot be correct. Inside the fluid-filled chamber, baby Kakarot began to glow with a faint aura. His tiny fists clenched and unclenched. The fluid around him rippled with energy. What is his power level? Bardock demanded. The technician stared in disbelief at the rapidly climbing numbers. It is still rising. 1, 0, 0, 3,000, 5,000. Other medical staff rushed into the room, alerted by the alarms. Bardock pushed his way through them, pressing his hand against the glass of the incubation chamber. Kakarot, he whispered. 7,000, 9,000. The technician was now shouting the readings. Everyone in the room froze as the final number stabilized on the monitor. 10,000, the technician whispered, voice trembling. The infant has a power level of 10,000. For context, King Vegeta himself, ruler of all Saiyans, had a power level of approximately 10,000. His son, Prince Vegeta, hailed as the most promising Saiyan of his generation, had a power level of 4,000 at age 5. Kakarot, mere hours old, had a power level that rivaled the king. Alert King Vegeta immediately, ordered the chief medical officer who had just entered the room. We have an elite among us. Perhaps the most powerful elite infant ever born. Bardock stood motionless, staring at his son. In the span of moments, everything had changed. His low-class son was now an elite, the most elite. The implications were staggering. The facility erupted into frantic activity. Guards were posted at the doors. Communications were sent to the royal palace. Bardock found himself surrounded by elite Saiyan guards who had arrived with unprecedented speed. Bardock, said the captain of the guard, you will come with us to the palace. King Vegeta wishes to speak with you about your son. Bardock nodded silently, his mind racing. Never before had a low-class Saiyan family produced an elite of this caliber. There was no protocol for this situation. What would this mean for Kakarot? What would it mean for him and his mate Guinea? As he was escorted from the medical facility toward the imposing royal palace that dominated the Saiyan capital, Bardock felt a strange sensation wash over him. His vision blurred, and suddenly he was no longer seeing the red skies of Planet Vegeta. He saw instead a massive creature with horns and pale skin laughing as a planet exploded behind him. He saw his son Kakarot grown to adulthood, hair glowing golden as he faced this same horn monster. He saw Prince Vegeta and Kakarot fighting side by side against impossible odds. He saw Earth, a blue jewel in space, and somehow knew that was what he was seeing. He saw a future that made no sense, a future of destruction and rebirth, a future where everything changed. The vision passed as quickly as it had come, leaving Bardock disoriented and confused. He had never experienced anything like it before. Was it some after effect of the head injury he had sustained in his last mission? Or was it something more? The royal palace of Planet Vegeta was a monument to Saiyan conquests. Constructed from the remnants of Tuffle architecture, but modified to suit tastes, it was imposing rather than beautiful, practical rather than ornate. Bardock had never been inside. Low-class warriors were rarely granted such access. King Vegeta sat upon his throne, his distinctive beard and royal armor, immediately identifying him as the ruler of all science. Beside the throne stood 5-year-old Prince Vegeta, already wearing battle armor and carrying himself with the pride of his royal bloodline. The boy was renowned as a prodigy, already accompanying adult science on moderate difficulty conquest missions. Bardock was forced to kneel before the king. Palace guards surrounded him. "So," King Vegeta said, his deep voice echoing in the throne room, "a low-class warrior has somehow produced the most powerful Saiyan infant in recorded history. How do you explain this, Bardock?" Bardock kept his head bowed, knowing that one wrong word could mean death. "I cannot explain it, my king. I am as surprised as anyone." King Vegeta rose from his throne and descended the steps toward Bardock. "Your son Kakarot has a power level that rivals my own. In all our history, no low-class family has produced an elite of such potential." Young Prince Vegeta stepped forward, his face twisted with indignation. "Father, it must be some mistake. No low-class infant could possibly have such power." King Vegeta held up his hand to silence his son. "The readings have been confirmed, my son, and now we must decide what this means for the future of our race." Bardock remained silent, but he could feel the tension in the room. The scan hierarchy was rigid and had been maintained for generations. An anomaly like Kakarot threatened to undermine the very foundations of their society. "Your son will be raised as an elite," King Vegeta declared. "He will train alongside Prince Vegeta and the other elite children. His potential must be developed to serve the Saiyan race and Lord Frieza." Young Prince Vegeta's eyes widened with shock and then narrowed with fury. "Father, you cannot be serious. He is low class by birth. Power determines all." "My son," King Vegeta replied sternly, "it is the way of our people, and this infant has power that cannot be ignored." Bardock finally dared to speak. "My king, what of my wife Gin and myself? What will become of us?" King Vegeta considered this for a moment. "You have proven yourself capable in battle, Bardock. Your new status as father of an elite grants you certain privileges. You will be reassigned to elite training supervision. Your mate Gen will be released from her meat processing duties to serve in the elite infant care division. You will have access to your son, but his primary loyalty must be to the throne and to our race." It was more than Bardock could have hoped for, yet less than he wanted. His son would be taken from him, in a sense raised to serve the Saiyan elite. Before Bardock could respond, the throne room doors burst open. A small lizard-like alien entered, flanked by 2 much larger soldiers. Everyone in the room immediately dropped to one knee, including King Vegeta himself. Lord Frieza had arrived unexpectedly. My, said Frieza, his voice unnervingly gentle and refined for a being of such terrifying power. "I hear there has been quite the interesting development among you monkeys. A low-class infant with an elite power level. How fascinating." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Birdo kept his head down, but he could feel cold sweat forming on his back. For Frieza rarely visited Planet Vegeta. Personally, for him to appear now so soon after Kakarot's power had been discovered was troubling. "Lord Frieza," King Vegeta said, his voice carefully controlled, "we are honored by your presence. Yes, we have discovered a remarkably powerful infant. He will make an excellent servant for your empire in the future." Frieza approached Bardock, circling him slowly. "And this is the father, is it? A common soldier who has somehow produced extraordinary offspring. Genetics are such an unpredictable thing, are they not?" Bardock said nothing, knowing it was not his place to speak to Lord Frieza directly, unless addressed with a question. "I would like to see this infant," Frieza said casually. "This potential prodigy who has caused such a stir." King Vegeta nodded to one of his guards, who immediately left to arrange the viewing. Bardock felt a surge of protectiveness. Something about Frieza seeing his son felt dangerous, though he could not have explained why. As they waited, Frieza continued, "A power level of 10,000 in an infant. Truly remarkable. One might almost believe the old legends." "Legends, Lord Frieza?" King Vegeta asked cautiously. Oh, you know the ones? Frieza said with a dismissive wave of his hand. The Super Saiyan legend, the warrior of unmatched power who appears every 1,000 years. Quite the bedtime story you Saiyans have created for yourselves. The room grew even more tense. The Super Saiyan legend was rarely discussed in Frieza's presence. It was well known that he considered it a potential threat to his rule. Merely stories for children, Lord Frieza, King Vegeta assured him. No such warrior has appeared in recorded history. See that it remains that way, Frieza said, his gentle tone not masking the threat in his words. I would hate to think my favorite warrior race harbored delusions of producing a power that might rival my own. At that moment, the guard returned. The infant has been brought to the adjacent chamber. My king, Frieza smiled. Excellent. Let us see this wondrous child. As they moved toward the door, Bardock was suddenly struck by another vision, more powerful than the first. He saw Planet Vegeta exploding. He saw Frieza laughing. He saw his son Kakarot facing Frieza on a strange world with green skies and blue grass. He saw death, destruction, the extinction of his race, and he knew with sudden and terrible clarity that Frieza feared the Saiyans, feared what they might become, feared the legend of the Super Saiyan. Bardock staggered, nearly falling. One of the guards caught him by the arm. Is something wrong with the proud father? Frieza asked, a mocking tone in his voice. Bardock straightened himself. No, Lord Frieza, just fatigued from my recent mission. But as he followed the group toward the chamber where his infant son waited, Bardock's mind was racing. Something was coming, something terrible. And somehow his son Kakarot stood at the center of it all. In another chamber of the palace, baby Kakarot floated in a portable incubation unit. Small but powerful, unaware that his very existence had just altered the fate of his entire race. Unaware that the most powerful tyrant in the universe now saw him as a potential threat. Unaware that in this moment, this divergence point, the entire future had been rewritten. The question now was not whether Kakarot would be sent to Earth and become Goku. The question was whether any of them would survive long enough for Kakarot to grow into his extraordinary power. As Frieza approached the incubation chamber, his red eyes narrowed with calculation and something else, fear. And in that moment, the future hung in the balance. The royal viewing chamber fell silent as Frieza approached the incubation pod containing baby Kakarot. The infant Saiyan floated peacefully, unaware of the danger looming over him. Frieza's tail swished back and forth, a sign of his interest or perhaps his agitation. Such a tiny thing, Frieza remarked, tapping one finger against the glass. Hard to imagine this could grow into anything truly threatening. King Vegeta stood rigid, carefully measuring his words. He will be trained to serve the Frieza force with absolute loyalty, Lord Frieza. Yes, I'm sure that's what you intend, Frieza replied, his voice almost gentle. Tell me, do many infants experience such dramatic power fluctuations? The chief medical officer stepped forward, bowing deeply. No, Lord Frieza, this is unprecedented in our records. Most power levels remain stable from birth with gradual increases through training. Frieza circled the pod, studying Kakarot from every angle. Fascinating. And what of his father? Any unusual abilities there? All eyes turned to Bardock, who remained kneeling. King Vegeta answered for him. Bardock is a capable warrior who has exceeded expectations for his class, but he has shown no extraordinary powers. Bardock kept his head down, fighting against another wave of visions threatening to overwhelm him. Flashes of planets exploding, of Frieza laughing, of his son grown to adulthood with golden hair. I want this child monitored closely, Frieza ordered. Regular reports on his development sent directly to me. If he shows any unusual abilities beyond his power level, I am to be informed immediately. Of course, Lord Frieza, King Vegeta agreed. As Frieza turned to leave, he paused beside Bardock. You should be proud, monkey. Your son may prove useful to me. The words were spoken softly for Bardock alone, but they carried an unmistakable threat. After Frieza and his attendants departed, the tension in the room slowly dissipated. King Vegeta's posture relaxed slightly, though his expression remained grave. Bardock, the king addressed him directly. Your son has drawn Lord Frieza's personal attention. This could be either fortunate or disastrous. Bardock finally rose to his feet. My king, I request permission to speak freely. King Vegeta considered for a moment, then nodded. Frieza fears us, Bardock stated bluntly. He fears what we might become. I believe he plans to destroy Planet Vegeta. Gossip echoed through the chamber. Prince Vegeta stepped forward, his small face contorted with anger. That is treasonous talk. Lord Frieza values our service. King Vegeta raised his hand for silence. What makes you say this, Bardock? These are dangerous accusations. Bardock hesitated, unsure how to explain the visions. During my last mission, I engaged a species with psychic abilities. Since then, I have been seeing flashes of possible futures. In these visions, Frieza destroys our planet. He fears the legend of the Super Saiyan becoming reality. The elite guards exchange glances. One of them laughed dismissively. Battle fatigue. He is delusional, but King Vegeta studied Bardock carefully. The Canassins, your squad was sent to eradicate them. Correct. They were rumored to possess the gift of foresight. Bardock nodded, surprised at the king's knowledge. Take him to the medical bay, King Vegeta ordered. I want his brain patterns examined. If there is any truth to this, we must know. Two guards escorted Bardock away. As they left, he heard Prince Vegeta speaking to his father. What will happen to the infant father? Will he truly train alongside me? He must, King Vegeta replied. His power cannot be ignored, but remember this, my son, you are the prince of all Saiyans. Your birthright places you above any commoner, regardless of power level. 3 days later, Bardock stood beside his mate GYN in the elite training facility. They watched as their infant son was placed in a specialized training pod alongside other elite Saiyan children. Most were at least 2 years older than Kakarot, including the 5-year-old Prince Vegeta. The brain scans confirmed anomalous activity. Bardock explained quietly to Jean. The king believes my visions may be genuine. Jen, smaller than most Saiyan females and gentler in nature, gripped Bardock's hand tightly. What does this mean for us? For Kakarot, King Vegeta has ordered increased surveillance of Frieza's movements. He's also accelerated the elite training program. If Frieza truly plans to destroy us, we need to be prepared. Inside the training pod, young Prince Vegeta approached the infant Kakarot. Though just a baby, Kakarot was already showing unusual awareness, his eyes tracking movements around him. You may have a high power level, Prince Vegeta said to the infant, but I am the prince of all Saiyans. Remember your place? The older elite children laughed, but their laughter died when baby Kakarot's power level suddenly spiked, causing the monitoring equipment to beep frantically. Though he couldn't speak or even walk, the infant Sai instincts recognized the challenge. In the months that followed, Planet Vegeta experienced subtle but significant changes. Saiyan warriors began returning from distant assignments. Training intensified across all classes. Defensive systems around the planet were upgraded. King Vegeta never publicly acknowledged Bardock's warning, but his actions spoke volumes. Bardock himself was now part of the elite training supervision team, watching over his son's development. Kakarot's growth was extraordinary. By 6 months, he could already stand and channel ki energy in basic ways, achievements that took most Saiyan children years. Prince Vegeta observed these developments with growing resentment. Though still significantly stronger than Kakarot due to his age and training, the prince could see that the gap was closing rapidly. The other elite children had already begun to look to Kakarot with something approaching reverence despite his infancy. One day, as Bardock was monitoring a training session, he was approached by another Saiyan elite named Paragus. Your son is remarkable, Paragus said. My own son Broly shows promising power as well, though nothing like Kakarot. Bardock nodded respectfully. Paragus was high-ranking among the elites and had the ear of King Vegeta. I hear rumors. Paragus continued, lowering his voice. Preparations being made. Contingency plans. The king takes your vision seriously more than he publicly admits. What preparations? Bardock asked. Emergency evacuation protocols, secret training facilities on outer planets. The king fears what Frieza might do, especially with the increased survival pods being manufactured. Bardock absorbed this information silently. His visions had become more frequent, more detailed. He had seen Frieza's finger extended toward Planet Vegeta, a ball of energy growing at its tip. He had seen his son fighting alongside Earth warriors. He had seen Prince Vegeta grown to adulthood, both as enemy and ally to Kakarot. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, aboard his massive flagship, Frieza reviewed the reports from his spies on Planet Vegeta. Increased activity, noted Zarbon, Frieza's elegant blue-skinned lieutenant. Their warrior recall rate has risen 30%. Training intensity has doubled, and the child. Frieza asked, swirling the wine in his glass, developing rapidly, already showing power control that most Saiyan children achieve at age 3. Frieza's tail lashed, suddenly shattering the wine glass. They are preparing for something. The question is what? Dora, his other lieutenant, massive and pink-skinned, grunted. Perhaps they know. Know what? Zarbon asked. That Lord Frieza plans to eliminate them. Dodora said bluntly. Frieza's eyes narrowed. I had planned to wait to let them grow complacent, but if they suspect if they are preparing resistance, the Saiyans are your most effective conquest force, Zarbon reminded him. Eliminating them would set back your expansion considerably. Replaceable, Frieza said dismissively. All tools are replaceable, and when a tool shows signs of turning against its master, that tool must be discarded. He stood, moving to the observation window that looked out into the vastness of space. Recall the Saiyan teams currently on essential missions. Let the rest remain where they are. Begin moving our main fleet into position near Planet Vegeta. Quietly, you're moving up the timeline, Zarbon observed. Yes, Frieza confirmed. I've decided not to wait. The legend of the Super Saiyan is just that, a legend, but I will not risk even the slightest chance of it becoming reality. He turned back to his lieutenants, his red eyes cold with determination. In 1 month, Planet Vegeta will be eliminated and the Saiyan threat with it. Back on Planet Vegeta, Bardock awakened suddenly in the night, his heart racing. Beside him, Genie stirred. Another vision? She asked, concerned in her voice. Bardock nodded grimly. 1 month. We have 1 month before Frieza destroys everything. He rose and dressed quickly in his battle armor. I must speak with the king immediately. Our preparations are not happening fast enough. As he left their quarters, Bardock paused to look in on Kakarot, now sleeping in a reinforced crib rather than a medical pod. The infant's tail twitched as he dreamed, his tiny fists clenching and unclenching. You will survive, Bardock promised his son quietly. Whatever happens, you will survive. The royal council chamber was filled with tension as King Vegeta addressed his most trusted elite warriors. Bardock stood among them, his recent elevation in status still drawing suspicious glances from lifelong elites. Our intelligence confirms it, King Vegeta announced gravely. Frieza's recalling specific Saiyan teams while positioning his main fleet near our world. His intentions are clear. Murmurs spread through the gathered warriors. Some faces showed disbelief, others anger, and a few displayed fear. The king has been preparing for this possibility, continued Nappa, the imposing commander of the Saiyan army. We have been developing contingency plans for the survival of our race. King Vegeta nodded. We cannot hope to defeat Frieza in direct combat. Not yet, but we can ensure our race survives to fight another day. Holographic projections appeared showing specialized space pods unlike their standard attack balls. These advanced survival pods can sustain multiple passengers and evade detection, explained the chief scientist. We have constructed 12 such vessels, enough to evacuate our most promising warriors and children. Paragus stepped forward. Where will they go? Frieza controls most viable planets in this sector. There are worlds beyond Frieza's immediate reach, King Vegeta replied. Distant planets where survivors can regroup, train, and eventually rebuild our strength. Bardock listened carefully, his mind still processing his most recent vision. He had seen a small group of Saiyan children, including Kakarot and Prince Vegeta, on a blue and green planet, Earth. But something about the vision troubled him. The circumstances of their arrival seemed chaotic, unplanned. My king, Bardock spoke up. I believe we should consider Earth as a primary destination. All eyes turned to him. Earth, King Vegeta repeated. A frontier world in the North Galaxy. Primitive technology, weak inhabitants. Why this specific planet? In my visions, I have seen our children there. Not just surviving but thriving, growing stronger than we could imagine. The planet seems to have ideal conditions for Saiyan development. King Vegeta studied Bardock thoughtfully. Your visions have proven accurate thus far. Earth will be added to the evacuation coordinates. As the council continued discussing evacuation protocols, Prince Vegeta entered the chamber. Though only 5 years old, he carried himself with royal dignity. Behind him walked Kakarot, now nearly 1 year old, but already walking steadily, his tail wrapped around his waist in perfect Saiyan form. Seeing their sons together sent a chill through Bardock. In his visions, these two had been both bitter enemies and powerful allies. Their rivalry would shape galaxies. King Vegeta beckoned the two children forward. My son, you and Kakarot will lead the next generation of Saiyans. If the worst comes to pass, you must preserve our race and avenge our people. Young Prince Vegeta nodded solemnly. I understand, father, I will not fail. Beside him, baby Kakarot watched with unusual intelligence in his eyes. Though he could speak only a few words, his comprehension was far beyond normal for his age. After the council disbanded, Bardock approached his son. Kakarot looked up at him, recognition and something deeper in his gaze. Father, the child said clearly, one of the few words he had mastered. Bardock knelt to his son's level. You are growing strong, Kakarot. Soon you will face challenges I cannot protect you from. The child tilted his head as if truly understanding. Bardock continued, remember who you are, a Saiyan warrior, but also my son. Your power is great, but how you use it will determine your true strength. Behind them, Prince Vegeta watched with narrowed eyes. Already, the prince recognized Kakarot as both asset and rival. Their shared destiny was beginning to take shape. That night, as final evacuation preparations were underway, alarms blared throughout the Saiyan capital. Bardock ran to the command center where monitors showed Frieza's flagship entering orbit a month earlier than Bardock had foreseen. He knows, Bardock realized aloud. He knows we're preparing to evacuate. King Vegeta barked orders, his composure never wavering despite the crisis. Launch the evacuation vessels immediately. Priority sequence as planned. The first pods began launching, carrying the youngest elite children. Prince Vegeta was escorted toward his designated pod, but the young prince resisted. I will stay and fight alongside my father, he insisted. King Vegeta gripped his son's shoulders. You will go and survive. That is an order from your king, live to avenge our people. Reluctantly, Prince Vegeta allowed himself to be led to the royal pod. Bardock raced through corridors toward the residential quarters where Jilin was preparing Kakarot for evacuation. When he arrived, he found his mate placing their son into specialized armor. They are launching the pods early, Bardock explained breathlessly. Frieza arrived sooner than expected. Jin nodded, her eyes filled with determination despite her fear. Kakarot is ready. Bardock lifted his son. The baby looked at him with those intelligent eyes that seemed to understand everything. You must survive, Bardock told him. Grow strong. Remember who you are. They rushed toward the launch bay, joining the stream of Saiyan families saying desperate goodbyes to their children. The scene was chaotic, so unlike the controlled precision that usually characterized Saiyan operations, when they reached Kakarot's assigned pod, they found Paragus already there with his infant son, Broly. There's been a change, Paragus explained quickly. King Vegeta has ordered the strongest children to share pods. Kakarot and Prince Vegeta will travel together along with 4 other elite children. Bardock frowned. This matched his vision but also troubled him. The rivalry between Prince Vegeta and Kakarot would be intensified by close quarters. Jean carefully placed Kakarot into the specialized pod where Prince Vegeta already waited, his arms crossed and expression stormy. 4 other young elites, ranging from 2 to 4 years old, were being settled into containment units designed for long journey stasis. Take care of each other, Jean told the children, her voice breaking slightly, even for Asian. The thought of sending her child away was painful. Suddenly, explosions rocked the launch bay. Frieza's forces had begun bombardment of the capital city. We must launch now, the pod technician urged. Bordo made a swift decision. Set coordinates for Earth. Maximum stealth protocols. As the pod door began to close, Bardock locked eyes with his son one final time. In that moment, another vision flashed before him, more vivid than any before. He saw Kakarot grown to adulthood, standing on a green field beneath Earth's blue sky. His son's hair glowed golden, an aura of incredible power surrounding him. Beside him stood a grown Prince Vegeta, similarly transformed. They faced an army of enemies, not as rivals but as comrades. The vision faded as the pod door sealed. Launch sequence initiated. We need to get to the defense perimeter. Bardock told Jean, the evacuations must be protected until all pods are away. Jin nodded, though they both knew what awaited them. No Saiyan, not even their king, could stand against Frieza's full might. Above the planet, Frieza stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching as his forces began systematic destruction of Saiyan cities. The children, he demanded of his officers, are they tracking the evacuation pods? Yes, Lord Frieza confirmed Zarbon. Several pods have launched. Our forces are pursuing. Frieza's expression darkened. The extraordinary child Kakarot. Has his pod been identified? Not specifically, my lord. We are scanning all departing vessels. Outside defense forces had mobilized, engaging Frieza's ships in desperate battle. Though vastly outnumbered, the Saiyans fought with their characteristic ferocity, buying time for more evacuation pods to launch. Bardock and Jean joined the battle, fighting side by side to protect the launch base. Around them, Saiyan warriors fell to Frieza's superior forces. In the royal palace, King Vegeta made his final stand. I am going to face Frieza myself, he told his remaining royal guard. Our people must survive, even if I do not. The king marched toward his personal ship, his power level rising as he prepared for the confrontation he had long avoided. Meanwhile, the specialized pod carrying Prince Vegeta, Kakarot, and the other elite children accelerated away from Planet Vegeta, its stealth systems active. Inside, the children watched through viewports as their homeworld shrank behind them, flashes of battle visible in orbit. Prince Vegeta's small fists clenched in fury. My father will defeat Frieza, he declared, though uncertainty tinged his voice. Beside him, Kakarot stared silently at the battle, his infant mind somehow grasping the significance of what was happening. Aboard Frieza's flagship, alarms suddenly blared. Lord Frieza, reported an officer. King Vegeta's ship is approaching. He appears to be alone. Frieza smiled coldly. How noble. The king comes to sacrifice himself for his people. He turned to Zarbon and Dodoria. Prepare to receive our royal guest. As King Vegeta's ship docked, Bardock experienced his most powerful vision yet. He saw Frieza floating above Planet Vegeta, a massive energy ball forming at his fingertip. He saw the planet cracking, exploding, and he saw his son's pod traveling through the darkness of space toward a distant blue world. The vision gave Bardock clarity and purpose. There was only one thing left to do. John, he said to his mate as they fought back-to-back against Frieza's soldiers. Find an attack pod, follow our son. John struck down another enemy. What about you? I'm gonna buy you time, Bardock replied. I'm gonna face Frieza. As the specialized pod carrying the Saiyan children accelerated to escape velocity, a blinding flash erupted behind them. The pod systems detected a massive energy surge centered on Planet Vegeta. Inside the pod, the automated systems activated emergency protocols, initiating stasis for the young passengers. The last thing Prince Vegeta saw before stasis overtook him was his homeworld engulfed in light beginning to crack apart. The pod's navigation computers, damaged by the energy wave from the planet's destruction, recalculated their course. Warning lights flashed as systems attempted to compensate. Destination, Earth. Estimated arrival, calculating. Status, stasis activated, all passengers stable. As Planet Vegeta exploded behind them, the future of the Saiyan race hurtled through space, carrying with it a prince, an extraordinary elite child named Kakarot, and a destiny that would reshape the universe. The mountains of Mount Pazo stretched peacefully under the morning sun, their serene appearance belying the event about to unfold in their tranquil valleys. Grandpa Gohan, an elderly martial artist who had chosen this remote location for its quiet solitude, was gathering herbs when he noticed a streak of light across the sky, a shooting star in daylight. He wondered aloud, shading his eyes to track the object, but this was no celestial phenomenon. The streak of light grew larger, its trajectory clearly headed toward the nearby forest. Gohan dropped his basket of herbs and ran toward the impact site, his aged body still capable of remarkable speed thanks to decades of martial arts training. The ground shook as the object crashed through the forest canopy and embedded itself in a newly formed crater. Trees had been flattened in a circular pattern around the impact. Steam rose from the scorched earth as Gohan cautiously approached the edge of the crater. At its center sat a spherical metal pod unlike anything Gohan had ever seen. Its design was clearly not of Earth origin, with strange symbols etched into its metallic surface. As Gohan carefully made his way down the crater's slope, a hissing sound emerged from the pod and a section of its hull began to open. Gohan took a defensive stance, prepared for anything that might emerge, but nothing could have prepared him for what he saw next. Inside the pod were children, 6 small figures in strange armor, seemingly in some form of suspended animation. As the pod's door fully opened, warning lights flashed inside the vessel and automated systems began revival procedures. The first child to stir was a boy who appeared to be about 5 years old, with flame-like hair that stood upright and a prominent widow's peak. His eyes snapped open, immediately alert and calculating despite having just awakened from stasis. "Where am I?" the boy demanded in a language Gohan didn't understand. When Gohan failed to respond, the boy switched to another language, then another, before finally trying what sounded like heavily accented English. "This planet, what is it called?" Gohan, maintaining his cautious stance, replied gently, "You're on Earth, young one. My name is Gohan. Are you children all right?" The boy's expression darkened. He looked back at the other children in the pod who were beginning to stir. The smallest among them, a child with wild, spiky black hair who couldn't be more than a year old, opened his eyes and immediately focused on Gohan with unusual intensity. "Earth," the flame-haired boy repeated. "This was not our primary destination." He turned to the other children who were now awake, speaking in their native language. They responded with confusion and some fear, except for the smallest child with the wild hair, who seemed curious rather than afraid. "My name is Vegeta," the flame-haired boy finally said, turning back to Gohan. "Prince of all Saiyans, these are elite Saiyan warriors. We require sustenance and information about this world." Despite the boy's imperious tone, Gohan could see that these were just children, clearly lost and far from home. Whatever strange circumstances had brought them here, they needed help. "Come with me," Gohan offered, extending his hand. "I have food and shelter nearby." Prince Vegeta ignored the offered hand and climbed out of the pod with impressive agility. The other children followed, helping the smallest one, who was barely walking age, yet somehow managed to climb out on his own. "Kakarot shows more coordination than a child his age should have," Vegeta remarked, noticing Gohan's surprise. "He is an elite despite his low birth." As they made their way toward Gohan's small mountain home, the martial arts master observed the strange children. They were remarkably strong and moved with unnatural grace. Most striking were their tails, which swayed behind them or wrapped around their waists like belts. The smallest child, apparently named Kakarot, kept pace despite his age, occasionally stopping to examine flowers or insects with intense curiosity. When Gohan offered to carry him, the child shook his head firmly. "Saiyan warriors walk on their own," Prince Vegeta declared haughtily. At Gohan's home, the children devoured an impossible amount of food, eating more than 10 grown men could consume. Prince Vegeta explained their situation in between bites, though Gohan suspected the boy was omitting critical details. "Our planet was destroyed by an enemy," Vegeta said. "We were sent away to survive. We are the last of the Saiyan race." "The last?" Gohan asked gently. One of the other children, a girl perhaps 4 years old, spoke up. "Our parents stayed to fight. They are probably dead now." The matter-of-fact way she said this surprised Gohan, but he saw pain behind the stoic expressions of the children. Even Vegeta, arrogant as he was, seemed momentarily vulnerable before masking it with pride. "We will grow stronger," Vegeta continued, "and one day we will avenge our people." As days became weeks, Gohan learned more about his unusual guests. The Saiyans were a warrior race with incredible physical abilities. Even the youngest Kakarot could lift boulders that grown men would struggle with. They could channel their internal energy, which they called ki, into powerful attacks. Most concerning to Gohan was their casual attitude toward violence and conquest. These children had been raised in a society that valued strength above all else and saw weaker beings as inferior. "Your planet is soft," Vegeta told Gohan one evening. "Its people are weak. On any other day we would have been sent to conquer worlds like this. And is that what you plan to do now?" Gohan asked calmly. Vegeta considered this. "No, we are too few. We need this world intact as a base while we grow stronger." Gohan took this as an opportunity. Perhaps there are other ways to be strong, ways that do not involve conquest. The Saiyan children laughed at this, all except Kakarot, who watched Gohan with those intensely curious eyes. As months passed, Gohan contacted his old master Roshi, who came to meet the alien children. The old turtle hermit was fascinated by their abilities and concerned about their potential. They could destroy the world if they wanted to, Roshi whispered to Gohan as they watched the children spar with each other, their power causing small craters in the earth with each impact. Or they could protect it, Gohan replied. "They need guidance, not fear." Prince Vegeta maintained his aloof attitude, constantly reminding the other Saiyan children of their heritage and destiny to avenge their race. But slowly, Earth began to influence them. They learned the language, adapted to Earth food and customs, and even began to enjoy simple pleasures like swimming in the mountain lakes or watching the stars. Kakarot in particular seemed drawn to Earth ways, much to Vegeta's annoyance. The tiny Saiyan followed Gohan everywhere, watching him perform martial arts. "Kudez in attempting to mimic them with startling precision. He combines our techniques with yours," one of the older Saiyan children observed, "creating something new." Vegeta scoffed at this. "Dilly-ding our heritage, you mean?" But privately, even Vegeta began incorporating some of Earth's martial arts into his training, recognizing their strategic value, if not their philosophical underpinnings. One night, as Gohan tucked the younger children into bed, Kakarot spoke one of his rare sentences. "Why you help us?" Gohan smiled gently at the serious little face. "Because all children deserve kindness, no matter where they come from." Kakarot pondered this with the deep concentration that made him seem far older than his years. "Even enemies." "Are we enemies, Kakarot?" Gohan asked. The child shook his head after a moment. "No friends." From the doorway, Prince Vegeta watched this exchange, his expression unreadable. Later that night, Gohan found the young prince sitting alone outside staring at the stars. "Thinking of home?" Gohan asked, sitting beside him. "A prince without a planet is no prince at all," Vegeta said bitterly. "Perhaps you'll be something greater than a prince," Gohan suggested. "A protector, not just a ruler." Vegeta turned to him with a flash of anger. "Saiyans are conquerors, not protectors. Yet here you are protecting the last of your kind," Gohan pointed out. "There is strength in protection, Prince Vegeta, perhaps more than in conquest." The boy had no answer for this, but Gohan saw the conflict in his eyes. The Saiyan children were caught between two worlds, two destinies. What they would become remained to be seen. One morning, Kakarot woke before the others and found Gohan performing his dawn meditation. Without a word, the small Scan sat beside him, closed his eyes, and attempted to mimic the old master's posture. "Seeking inner peace, Kakarot?" Gohan asked with a smile. "Seeking power?" the child replied simply. Gohan nodded. "The two are not always separate. True power comes from knowing yourself, not just strengthening your body." Kakarot opened one eye. "Show me." And so began a new phase in the young Saiyan's training, one that would set him on a path different from his peers. While the other Saiyan children focused primarily on combat training, Kakarot balanced this with Gohan's teachings about ki control, meditation, and the martial artist way. Prince Vegeta watched these developments with growing concern. "You're becoming too much like them, Kakarot," he warned. "Remember who you are, an elite Saiyan warrior, not some peaceful earthling." Kakarot, now speaking in full sentences, replied with unexpected wisdom. "I can be both. Strength is strength. And when the time comes to avenge our people, to destroy our enemies, will your earthly compassion make you hesitate?" Vegeta challenged. Kakarot considered this, his young face serious. "If our enemies threaten those I protect, I will not hesitate." This answer seemed to satisfy Vegeta, at least temporarily, but the ideological divide between the young Saiyan was growing. Half of them aligned with Vegeta's traditional Saiyan values, while the others were increasingly influenced by Earth culture and Gohan's teachings. As the seasons changed and the children grew, their extraordinary powers developed at an alarming rate. Trees splintered under their punches, boulders were reduced to dust, their speed became nearly impossible to track with the human eye. Master Roshi visited regularly, bringing news from the outside world and additional training techniques. He also brought warnings. "The world will notice them eventually," he told Gohan. Beings of such power cannot remain hidden forever. Gohan nodded. Then we must ensure they are ready to face that world not as conquerors but as defenders, unknown to the inhabitants of the peaceful mountain home across the vast emptiness of space. The news of Planet Vegeta's destruction had spread through Frieza's empire, and with it rumors that some Saiyan children had escaped, including the prince himself. In his throne room, Frieza listened to these reports with growing irritation. Find them, he ordered his commanders. Search every frontier world, every outpost. The Saiyan race must be exterminated completely. Back on Earth under a full moon, the mountain forest was about to witness a transformation that would change everything. Grandpa Gohan awoke to the sound of splintering wood and primal roars. The full moon cast an eerie glow through his window as he rushed outside to find a nightmare unfolding where the scanned children had been sleeping. 6 giant apes now rampaged through the forest, their massive forms silhouetted against the moonlit sky. Great Kami, Gohan whispered, recognizing the transformed children by their armor now stretched across their enormous bodies. The Great Ape Transformation, a Saiyan ability triggered by the full moon that multiplied their power tenfold, had never been mentioned by the children. Perhaps they hadn't known, having been too young when they left their homeworld to be warned of this transformation. The smallest ape, unmistakably Kakarot, roared and smashed a boulder to dust. Though smaller than the others, his strength was still devastating. Unlike the others who rampaged blindly, Kakarot seemed to retain some awareness, his movements less chaotic. Gohan knew he had to act quickly before the transformed science destroyed the entire mountain range. Drawing on all his training, he approached the rampaging apes. "Children," he called out, channeling ki into his voice to make it carry. "Control yourselves. Remember who you are." The great ape that was Prince Vegeta turned toward the sound, red eyes glowing with primal fury with surprising speed for such a massive creature. Vegeta lunged at Gohan, who barely dodged the attack. For hours, Gohan worked to contain the destruction, using all his martial arts skills to distract the apes away from nearby villages while avoiding their powerful attacks. But even his considerable skill had limits. As dawn approached, Gohan made a painful decision: the tails. From watching the children train, he knew their tails were sensitive. Perhaps they were the key to this transformation. When Kakarot, the most controlled of the group, came within reach, Gohan executed a precise strike at the base of his tail. The effect was immediate. Kakarot began to shrink, his ape features receding until only the small Saiyan child remained, unconscious, but otherwise unharmed. One by one, Gohan managed the same technique on the other children, though not without cost. The ape form of Prince Vegeta landed a glancing blow that sent Gohan crashing through several trees, breaking ribs and injuring his leg. By sunrise, all 6 children were back to normal, sleeping peacefully with no memory of their transformation. Gohan, battered and exhausted, gathered them and returned to what remained of his damaged home. When the children awoke, they were shocked by both Gohan's injuries and the destruction around them. "What happened?" demanded Prince Vegeta. Gohan explained the transformation, watching understanding dawn on their faces. "The Uzuru form," one of the older Saiyans whispered. "I remember now. Our parents mentioned it, but we were too young to train in controlling it. It is triggered by the full moon," Gohan explained, "and apparently your tails are the conduit for the transformation." The Saiyan children immediately checked their tails, relieved to find them still attached. "You could have removed our tails while we slept," Prince Vegeta observed suspiciously. "Why didn't you?" "Because they are part of who you are," Gohan replied simply. "Instead, we will work on controlling this transformation. It could be a powerful ability if mastered rather than feared." This marked a turning point in the Saiyan children's training. With new understanding of their biology and abilities, they began more structured training under Gohan and increasingly Master Roshi, who took a greater interest in their development after learning of the Uzuru transformation. Years passed. The children grew in size, strength, and skill. By the time Kakarot was 12 and Prince Vegeta, 15, they had mastered not only traditional Sai combat techniques, but also many of Earth's martial arts. Most importantly, they had learned to control their Uzuru transformations, maintaining awareness and tactical thinking even in their giant ape forms. The dynamic between the Saiyans had evolved as well. Prince Vegeta remained their nominal leader, his royal status never questioned. But Kakarot, whose power had grown at an astonishing rate, was increasingly his equal in combat. Their sparring sessions often ended in draws, much to Vegeta's frustration. The other Saiyans had developed their own specialties. Latita, the oldest girl, had mastered energy control with unprecedented precision. The twins, Neon and Crest, had developed complementary fighting styles that made them nearly unbeatable when working together. Raditz, the newest addition, who had arrived in a damaged pod 3 years after the first group, brought with him more knowledge of traditional Saiyan culture and techniques. Raditz's arrival had been a shock to all, especially Kakarot. To learn that he had a brother, that another Saiyan had survived, had reinforced their connection to their lost homeworld. Frieza continues to hunt any surviving Saiyans. Raditz had reported grimly, "I'd barely escaped his forces to find you." He fears our potential, especially the legend of the Super Saiyan. The day that would change everything began like any other. The Saiyans were engaged in training when a sleek aircraft appeared over the mountains bearing the Capsule Corporation logo. From it emerged a blue-haired teenage girl, bold and brilliant beyond her years. "Finally found you," she announced, consulting a strange device in her hand. "My radar detected unusual energy readings in this area for years. Dad said I was crazy to investigate, but I knew something interesting was happening here." "Who are you?" Prince Vegeta demanded, immediately suspicious. "Bulma Briefs," she replied confidently. "Daughter of Dr. Briefs, the founder of Capsule Corporation and the greatest scientific mind on Earth. And you are definitely not from around here, are you?" Her eyes had already noted their tails, their unusual armor, and the remnants of their spaceship, which they had converted into a training facility. Before anyone could respond, Bulma continued excitedly. "Aliens, right? This is amazing. I have so many questions. What planet are you from? How did you get here? What's your power source? The energy readings from this area are off the charts." Kakaroto, always the most curious about Earth and its people, stepped forward. "We are science. Our planet was destroyed. Earth is our home now." The directness of his answer surprised even Vegeta, who shot him a warning look. Bulma absorbed this information with remarkable calm. "Refugees, then. Fascinating. Listen, I'm not here to expose you or anything. Actually, I'm looking for something called Dragon Balls. My radar indicates one is nearby." She showed them her device, which displayed a blinking dot near their location. Master Roshi, who had been observing the exchange, stepped forward with interest. "Dragon Balls, you say? I haven't heard that term in many years." From his gay, Roshi produced a small orange sphere with 4 stars inside it. "Is this what you're looking for?" Bulma's eyes widened with excitement. "Yes, that's the 4-star ball. I already have 2 others." She explained the legend of the Dragon Ball's 7 magical orbs that when gathered could summon a dragon capable of granting any wish. The Saiyans listened with growing interest, especially Vegeta. "Any wish," he repeated. "Could such artifacts restore a planet, revive a race?" "Theoretically," Bulma replied. "The legend says one wish, anything the heart desires." Vegeta's eyes gleamed with sudden purpose. "Then we will help you find these Dragon Balls." Kakaroto studied his prince carefully. He recognized the look of determination, of hope rekindled. For years, they had trained without a clear purpose beyond survival and vague notions of someday avenging their race. Now Vegeta saw a concrete path forward. Bulma, oblivious to the significance of her revelation to the Saiyans, was simply happy to have help in her quest. "Great. With your abilities, finding the remaining balls should be much faster. And I have plenty of questions about your species and technology that you can answer along the way." Gohan and Roshi exchanged concerned glances. The Dragon Balls were powerful artifacts, and the wish of a vengeful prince could have unforeseen consequences. "Remember what we have taught you about power and responsibility," Gohan said quietly to Kakarot. Kakarot nodded, understanding the implicit warning. "I will make sure our wish serves justice, not merely vengeance." And so began a new chapter in the Saiyan refugees lives on Earth. The quest for the Dragon Balls took them beyond their mountain sanctuary for the first time, exposing them to the wider world and its inhabitants. They encountered the desert bandit Yamcha, who initially attempted to rob them before being swiftly outmatched and eventually joining their growing group. They faced the machinations of Emperor Palaf, whose attempts to steal the Dragon Balls were comically inadequate against Saiyan abilities. Throughout their journey, the differences between Vegeta and Kakarot's approaches became increasingly apparent. Vegeta saw Earth's inhabitants as mostly irrelevant obstacles or occasionally useful tools in their quest. Kakarot's, influenced by years of Gohan's teachings, formed connections with the humans they encountered, seeing their value and strength of spirit. When all 7 Dragon Balls were finally gathered, glowing with mystical energy at the base of a secluded mountain, tension filled the air. The moment of the wish had arrived. "Eternal Dragon, by your name, I summon you forth." "Shinran," Bulma called out, following the ancient incantation Roshi had taught them. The sky darkened as if night had suddenly fallen. Lightning cracked across the blackened heavens. The 7 Dragon Balls pulsed with golden light, then shot a blinding beam skyward that coalesced into the form of an enormous dragon, green and serpentine with glowing red eyes. "I am the Eternal Dragon," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "State your wish and I shall grant it." All eyes turned to Prince Vegeta as the royal heir. It was his right to make the wish. His face, illuminated by the dragon's glow, showed conflicting emotions: hope, anger, determination. "Shenron," Vegeta began, his voice steady. "I wish for Planet Vegeta to be restored along with all Saiyans who were killed by Frieza." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter as it considered the request. After what seemed an eternity, Shenron spoke. "This wish cannot be granted. Has stated, the destruction of Planet Vegeta and the genocide of the Saiyan race exceed the current limits of my power. The distance is too great and too much time has passed. Vegeta's face contorted with rage and disappointment. Then what good are you? What is the point of collecting these magical orbs if they cannot grant a wish of true importance? Kakarot placed a hand on Vegeta's shoulder. Ask for something within his power, something that can still help us. Vegeta shrugged off the touch but considered Kakarot's words. After a moment, his expression hardened with resolve. Very well, Dragon. I wish to know the current location of Frieza, destroyer of Planet Vegeta, so that we may bring justice to the Saiyan race with our own hands. Shimronun's eyes glowed once more. Your wish is granted. The one called Frieza is currently in the North Galaxy, approaching the planet Namek. It is there. You will find him. With those words, the dragon vanished in a blinding flash, and the 7 Dragon Balls rose into the air, scattered in different directions across the earth, turning to stone as they disappeared from view. Name, Vegeta repeated, memorizing the name. Now we have a destination, a purpose. Bulma, who had been recording everything with scientific fascination, spoke up. If you're serious about interstellar travel, you should come to Capsule Corp. My father has been studying the technology from your pod for years. With your knowledge and our resources, we might be able to build a ship capable of reaching this Namek planet. The science exchanged looks. For years, Earth had been their sanctuary, their training ground. Now it could become their launch pad to the stars. To a confrontation years in the making. We accept your offer, Prince Vegeta decided. The time has come to leave this peaceful backwater and reclaim our destiny. That night, as they made camp under the stars for the final leg of their journey to Capsule Corporation, Kakarot sat apart from the others deep in thought. Gohan, who had accompanied them on their quest, joined him. Troubled, Kakarot, the old master asked. We're going to face Frieza, Kakarot replied. The being who destroyed our world killed our families. I should feel only eagerness for battle, for vengeance. That would be the Saiyan way. But you feel something else as well, Gohan observed. Kakarot nodded, concern for this world that has been our home, for the people we've met. What happens to Earth if we fail? If Frieza learns of its existence, Gohan smiled sadly. You have learned what I hope to teach you. True strength comes from protecting what matters, not just defeating enemies. I will become strong enough to do both, Kakarot promised, looking up at the stars, somewhere among which lurked the tyrant who had orphaned him. Strong enough to avenge our people and protect this world. Unknown to the science, across the void of space, their confrontation with destiny was approaching faster than they realized. For Frieza had not been idle in the years since Planet Vegeta's destruction. He had continued his quest for immortality, following legends of powerful artifacts across the galaxy. And now his path was leading him to Namek, homeworld of the being who had created Earth's Dragon Balls, where even more powerful wishes waited to be claimed. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of the universe. Capsule Corporation headquarters sprawled across several city blocks, a testament to the technological prowess of the Briefs family. The Saiyan warriors stood before the main dome, impressed despite themselves by what humans had accomplished without key manipulation or battle prowess. Dr. Briefs, a lavender-haired scientist with a black cat perpetually perched on his shoulder, greeted them with casual enthusiasm that belied the momentousness of meeting alien warriors. So you're the source of those fascinating energy signatures, he remarked, examining them through his thick glasses. Bulma has told me all about you. Come in, come in. I've been studying your space pod technology for years. Remarkable engineering. Truly remarkable. The laboratory he led them to was a wonderland of half-finished inventions and blinking consoles. In the center stood what remained of their original pod, partially disassembled but treated with obvious care and respect. Hope you don't mind, Dr. Brief said, noting their expressions. Scientific curiosity got the better of me. But the good news is, I've learned enough to begin constructing a new ship. One capable of interstellar travel. Prince Vegeta stepped forward. How long will this take? We must reach planet Naka as quickly as possible. With your input on technology, perhaps 3 months. Dr. Briefs estimated the propulsion system is the tricky part. Your pod used principles that frankly rewrite several laws of physics as we understand them. 3 months, Vegeta repeated, dissatisfied, but accepting. Then we train until we depart, Kakarot informed the others. While the construction of their spaceship proceeded, the Saiyans established a new training regimen on the Capsule Corp grounds. Dr. Briefs, fascinated by their abilities, created increasingly durable training facilities to withstand their power. Most revolutionary was his gravity manipulation chamber, inspired by notes found in the Saiyan pod's databanks about Planet Vegeta's heavier gravity. 10 times Earth's gravity, Dr. Briefs announced proudly. Unveiling the chamber should give you the resistance training you're looking for. Prince Vegeta smirked. Begin at 50 times Earth gravity. The scientist blinked in surprise but adjusted his invention accordingly. What followed was training of unprecedented intensity. The science pushed their bodies to breaking points and beyond, each recovery making them stronger according to their biology. Curious Earthlings began to gather around Capsule Corp, drawn by rumors of the strange visitors. Among them were martial artists sensing the extraordinary ki emanating from the compound. Krillin, a former Orin Temple monk, was the first to approach directly. "Teach me," he requested simply. "After watching the science train from a distance, I sense your power. I want to learn." Kakarot, always more receptive to Earthlings than his comrades, agreed to train with Krillin. Soon, others joined, including Yamcha and a Triclops named Tien Shinhan, whose third eye reminded the Saiyans of certain alien species they had encountered in their youth. These humans learned quickly. Kakarot observed to Vegeta after a training session. "Their power levels increase at remarkable rates for non-Saiyans." Vegeta scoffed. "They remain insects compared to us, but I suppose having cannon fodder against Frieza's forces could be useful." But even Vegeta could not deny the value of what the humans brought to their training. Techniques like the solar flare, the Kamehameha, and the Dodon Ray expanded the Saiyans' tactical options beyond brute force and basic ki blasts. Bulma, meanwhile, had become fascinated with Saiyan armor technology. "The material is incredible," she told Kakarot as she examined a piece under a microscope. "Lightweight but nearly indestructible, with elastic properties that allow it to expand with your transformations." Within weeks, she had synthesized a similar material and began producing new armor for the entire group, Earthlings included. The combined Seen and human team was taking shape. 2 months into their preparation, a new arrival changed everything. A damaged Saiyan pod crashed in the wastelands outside West City. From it emerged a battered warrior with long, wild hair wearing cracked Saiyan armor. "Raditz," Kakar whispered, recognizing his brother from the description in Bardock's rare mentions of his firstborn son. The reunion between brothers was tense, filled with cultural disconnect. Raditz had spent years hiding among Frieza's forces, passing as a loyal soldier while secretly searching for other Saiyan survivors. His perspective had been shaped by constant fear and deception. "You've gone soft on this planet," Raditz accused after observing their training with humans. "Playing teacher to weaklings when you should be focused solely on revenge. We've grown stronger here than we could have anywhere else." Kokoro countered, "These humans have techniques worth learning, worth incorporating into our own fighting styles." Raditz remained skeptical until the first time he entered the gravity chamber. His knees buckled under the pressure that Kakarot and Vegeta now trained in routinely. His shock was complete when Kakarot demonstrated the Kaihaya, a technique that channeled ki with efficiency that surpassed standard Saiyan energy attacks. "Perhaps there is something to this Earth training," Raditz grudgingly admitted afterward. His intelligence about Frieza's current activities proved invaluable. "He seeks Namek for their Dragon Balls," Raditz revealed. "Rumors among his forces speak of Dragon Balls far more powerful than Earth's, capable of granting multiple wishes, including immortality." This news accelerated their timeline. Dr. Briefs worked around the clock to complete the spaceship while training intensified to desperate levels. If Frieza obtained immortality, even the combined might of all Saiyans would never be enough to defeat him. "We leave him 1 week," Vegeta declared. Ready or not, the night before their departure, Kakarot sought out Grandpa Gohan, who had remained at Capsule Corp to observe their training. "I may not return," Kakarot said plainly. "Frieza's power is said to be monstrous, beyond anything we've faced." Gohan nodded sagely. "Fear is natural before battle, even for a Saiyan warrior." "I do not fear death," Kakarot clarified. "I fear failure. If we cannot stop Frieza, he will eventually find Earth. Everything and everyone here will suffer the same fate as Planet Vegeta." "Then remember what you fight for," Gohan advised. "Not just vengeance for the past, but protection for the future. This dual purpose will give you strength beyond mere rage." The launch day arrived with somber ceremony. The spaceship, a gleaming silver sphere with the Capsule Corp logo painted alongside a recreated Saiyan royal crest, stood ready on the launch pad. 8 warriors would make the journey. Vegeta, Kakura, Raditz, and the 3 surviving elite Saiyan children from the original pod, now teenagers trained in both Saiyan and Earth techniques. Joining them were Krillin and Tien, the strongest human fighters whose techniques had proven valuable enough for Vegeta to grudgingly accept their participation. Bulma insisted on accompanying them as technical support. "The ship has systems only I fully understand," she argued. "Besides, someone needs to document the first human expedition beyond our solar system." The farewell was brief. In keeping with Saiyan tradition, emotions before battle were considered distractions. Yet, Earth customs had influenced them enough that each warrior accepted the good wishes of those remaining behind. Master Roshi presented them with weighted training clothing, for when the gravity chamber becomes too easy, he explained with a wink. Dr. Briefs gave Bulma a capsule case, emergency equipment, including communication devices that should work across light years. Theoretical, of course, but the principles are sound. Grandpa Gohan simply bowed to each warrior, a gesture of respect that meant more than words. As they boarded the ship, Kakarot paused at the entrance, looking back at the planet that had become his home. Earth gleamed blue and green in the morning sunlight, beautiful and fragile. "We will return," he promised quietly. Inside, Vegeta took the command chair naturally, his royal bearing never more evident than in moments requiring leadership. Plot course for Planet Namek ordered maximum speed. The journey would take 1 month, even with their advanced propulsion systems. During that time, the gravity chamber would be their constant companion, pushing their bodies to adapt to ever-increasing pressure. By the time they reached Nek, they would either be ready to face Frieza, or they would die in the attempt. As Earth dwindled behind them, becoming just another star in the vast blackness, each warrior faced their own thoughts about the confrontation ahead. Vegeta dreamed of avenging his father and reclaiming his birthright as ruler of the proud Saiyan race. Raditz contemplated finally emerging from hiding, standing openly against the tyrant he had pretended to serve for years. And Kakarot, once a low-class infant, elevated to elite status by a quirk of genetics, now potentially the strongest of them all through relentless training, thought of Earth, of Grandpa Gohan's teachings about protecting the innocent, of the strange dual heritage he now carried, Saiyan warrior and Earth defender. Somewhere ahead across the gulf of space waited the monster who had destroyed their world, the architect of their orphaned existence, the emperor of the cosmos, who even now sought the power of immortality. The ship accelerated to speeds beyond imagination, carrying within it perhaps the last hope of justice for a murdered race and protection for a planet that knew nothing of the cosmic forces about to collide for its fate. On the observation deck, Kakarot and Vegeta stood side by side, rivals and comrades, watching the stars streak by. "We will need to be more than we are now to defeat him," Kakarot said quietly. Vegeta nodded, his expression hard. "The legend of the Super Saiyan, it must be more than myth. We must find the way to unlock it. If it exists, we will." Kakarot promised together. For perhaps the first time, Vegeta did not bristle at the implication of equality. Against Frieza, they would need every advantage, every ally, every technique, and every ounce of Saiyan pride and power they could muster. The universe blurred around their ship as they hurtled toward destiny, toward a confrontation years in the making, toward justice or oblivion. Toward Namek. Planet Namek emerged from the darkness of space, a jewel of blue and green against the void. The ship's viewscreen displayed its serene surface dotted with islands amid vast oceans. From orbit, it appeared peaceful, untouched by the conflict about to engulf it. Sensors detect multiple power signatures, Bulma reported from the control console. Most are clustered in small groups across the surface. Low to moderate power levels, likely the native Neomekians. Vegeta frowned, studying the readouts and the others. Bulma's expression grew concerned. One cluster of higher readings near the northern continent, and one extraordinarily high power signature that keeps moving locations. Frieza Raditz confirmed grimly, and the cluster must be his elite forces, the Ginyu Force. Most likely his personal squad of mercenaries, each with power that would qualify them as conquerors in their own right. The warriors exchanged glances. Despite a month of intense training in the gravity chamber, pushing their bodies to new limits, the readings from Frieza's energy signature were daunting. "We need a strategy beyond direct confrontation," Tien suggested. His third eye narrowed in concentration. "Perhaps we can locate the Neomekian Dragon Balls before Frieza completes his collection." Krillin nodded in agreement. "If these Dragon Balls are as powerful as rumored, controlling them is the priority. We can wish for the power to defeat Frieza or remove his immortality if he's already obtained it." Vegeta's jaw tightened at the suggestion that they might not be strong enough already, but he nodded curtly. "We'll split into teams. Kakarot, you and I will assess Frieza's forces directly. The rest of you will search for Dragon Balls and make contact with the Nekians. We'll need their cooperation." As they prepared for planetfall, each warrior donned the new battle armor Bulma had designed, a hybrid of Saiyan durability and Earth functionality. The armor expanded with their movements while providing maximum protection colored to match each fighter's preferred style. "Remember to suppress your power levels until necessary," Vegeta instructed as they gathered at the exit ramp. "We maintain the element of surprise as long as possible." Kakarot adjusted his arm guards, his expression unusually serious. Years of training had led to this moment. The piece of Earth seemed a distant memory, now replaced by the singular focus of a Saiyan warrior facing his greatest battle. "One more thing," Bulma called as the ramp began to lower. "I've analyzed the atmospheric composition. A Neomekian day lasts approximately 89 Earth hours, and there appears to be 3 suns. No nightfall, no moon," Raditz noted grimly. "No Yuzuru transformation to fall back on." The gravity hit them as they descended the ramp, heavier than Earth but lighter than their training conditions. After months in the gravity chamber, Nick's pull felt almost buoyant. Spread out. Stay in communication range. Vegeta ordered, if you encounter Frieza or his elites, do not engage alone. Signal for backup immediately. The teams departed in different directions, flying low to avoid detection. Kakarot and Vegeta headed toward where they sensed the cluster of power levels, moving with the speed and stealth that had become second nature during their years of training. As they crested a blue stone formation, they got their first glimpse of Frieza's forces. Below, in a valley dotted with strange bulbous trees, dozens of alien soldiers in familiar armor patrolled around several spherical ships. In the center stood a larger vessel, its design more elaborate and threatening. Frieza's personal ship, Vegeta whispered. Old memories surfacing of life under the tyrant's rule, and those are standard troops, not the Ginyu Force. Where is Frieza himself? Kakura closed his eyes, extending his senses in the way Grandpa Gohan had taught him, moving rapidly across the planet, searching for something. The Dragon Balls, Vegeta concluded. He doesn't have them all yet. We still have a chance. A sudden explosion in the distance caught their attention. Even from Kilome away, they could sense the spike in power that preceded it. That's where Krillin and Tien were headed, Kakarot said with concern. Without discussion, they changed course, flying at full speed toward the disturbance. The landscape below blurred as they pushed their ki to new levels, leaving shockwaves in their wake. They arrived to find a scene of destruction, a Namekian village in ruins, green bodies scattered across smoking ground. Krillin and Tien stood back to back, surrounded by Frieza's soldiers. Despite being outnumbered, the Earth Warriors were holding their own, their months of training evident in their precise movements and energy control. Now this is interesting, came a cultured, chilling voice from above the battlefield. More visitors to our little expedition. And not just any visitors. Floating above the chaos was a figure that burned itself into Kakarot's memory, smaller than expected, with purple and white bio-armor covering a live form, a long tail whipped behind him as he descended gracefully to hover before the new arrivals. Science, Frieza said, his red eyes gleaming with malicious amusement. How fascinating. I was under the impression I had thoroughly exterminated your kind. Clearly, I was remiss in my housekeeping. Vegeta's power flared with barely contained rage, his aura casting harsh light across the battlefield. Frieza, murderer of our people, your reckoning has arrived. Frieza laughed, the sound devoid of humor. Oh my. The little prince survived after all. How poetic. And who is your companion? Another royal bodyguard, perhaps? Kakarot stepped forward, meeting the tyrant's gaze without flinching. I am Kakarot, son of Bardock, elite warrior of the Saiyan race. Bardock? Frieza mused, tapping one finger against his chin. Ah yes, the delusional low-class who dared to challenge me directly as I cleansed the universe of your simian infestation. He died screaming, if memory serves. The taunt was designed to provoke, to make them attack rashly, emotionally. Years ago it would have worked, but Earth training had taught them patience, tactical thinking beyond berserker rage. Your memory fails you, Kakarot replied evenly. My father died a warrior's death, buying time for the future of our race to escape, and now that future stands before you. Frieza's amused expression faltered slightly at this unexpected composure. He raised one hand, energy gathering at his fingertip. How tedious. You monkeys never did know when you were outmatched. Allow me to demonstrate the gap between us. The energy blast shot toward them with blinding speed, powerful enough to vaporize a mountain, but it never reached its target. Kakarot's hand moved in a blur, deflecting the attack skyward where it exploded harmlessly in the atmosphere. Frieza's eyes widened fractionally. Well, perhaps this won't be entirely boring after all. The battlefield fell silent as soldiers and warriors alike sensed the coming storm. Krillin and Tien used the distraction to dispatch their remaining opponents and moved to stand beside their comrades. You've grown careless, Frieza, Vegeta said, his voice carrying across the ruined village. While you've been playing Emperor, we've been training, growing stronger with each battle, each recovery, focused solely on this day. How ambitious, Frieza replied, though a hint of uncertainty had entered his voice, but surely you don't think a handful of monkeys and their pets can challenge me. I, who have destroyed worlds on a whim, who even now stand on the verge of immortality. Kakarot glanced at the orange sphere clutched in Frieza's hand. A Dragon Ball larger than Earth's with 5 red stars gleaming within. How many have you collected? He asked directly. Frieza smiled, regaining his composure. 5 of the 7. My Ginyu Force searches for the remaining 2. Even as we speak, their discovery is inevitable. Vegeta and Kakarot exchanged a look. If Frieza had 5 and needed 7, there were still 2 Dragon Balls beyond his reach. A slim chance, but a chance nonetheless. Enough talk, Vegeta declared. We did not cross the galaxy for conversation. He dropped into a fighting stance, one developed over years of combining Saiyan aggression with the precision of Earth martial arts. Beside him, Kakarot mirrored the movement, their ki rising in perfect synchronization. Frieza sighed theatrically. Very well. If you insist on this futile gesture, I shall oblige. Though it seems a waste to kill such rare specimens, perhaps I'll keep one of you alive for my collection. What followed was unlike any battle Name had ever witnessed. The forces unleashed as the warriors' clash shook the planet to its core. Mountains crumbled, lakes vaporized. The very air burned with energy. Despite years of preparation, the gap between their power and Frieza's remained substantial. The tyrant fought in his base form yet matched their combined assault with disturbing ease. Is this all? Frieza taunted, blocking Vegeta's punch while deflecting Kakarot's energy wave with his tail. The mighty Sai elite reduced to this. Your legend was greatly exaggerated. But as the battle progressed, something unexpected happened. Rather than tiring, the science grew stronger. Each exchange, each blow landed or received, pushed their bodies beyond previous limits. The Zengai boost, a Saiyan's ability to grow stronger after recovering from battle damage, was occurring in real time, fueled by their extreme training and the stakes of the confrontation. Frieza began to notice the shift, his confidence giving way to confusion, then concern. Blows he had easily blocked minutes before now required actual effort to deflect. Energy attacks he had swatted aside like insects now pushed him back when he attempted to disperse them. Impossible. He hissed as Kakarot's fist slipped through his guard, landing a solid blow to his torso. No one grows stronger during battle itself. Vegeta laughed, the sound harsh and triumphant. You never bothered to truly understand the Saiyan potential, Frieza. You feared it enough to destroy us, but not enough to study what makes us unique. The tide was turning slowly but perceptibly. Krillin and Tien joined the assault strategically, using solar flare to blind Frieza at critical moments, creating openings for the Saiyans to exploit. The combination of Earth techniques and Saiyan power was proving more effective than either alone would have been. Frieza backed away, breathing heavily for the first time. Impressive display. You've actually managed to amuse me. But playtime is over. His body began to change, bio-armor cracking and reforming as he accessed his second transformation. His power level doubled, then tripled, the sheer force of it creating a crater beneath his hovering form. This is merely my second form, Frieza announced, his voice deeper, more menacing in his new configuration. I have two more beyond this. Still confident, monkeys. The battle resumed with devastating intensity. What have been nearly even now became desperate survival. Even with their continued growth, the Saiyans found themselves overwhelmed by Frieza's transformed state. A brutal energy blast caught Vegeta directly, sending him crashing through multiple rock formations before he lay still, his armor shattered, blood streaming from numerous wounds. Vegeta Kakarot cried out, momentarily distracted. It was all the opening Frieza needed. A death beam pierced Kakarot's shoulder, the concentrated energy burning through muscle and bone. He fell to one knee, clutching the wound as Frieza approached, savoring his apparent victory. I must thank you, the tyrant said conversationally. I had forgotten the thrill of actual combat. It's been so long since anyone provided even a modicum of challenge. Through waves of pain, Takaro reached for a small pouch at his belt. Deiflay, he extracted a senzu bean, one of several Korin had provided before their departure from Earth. The mystical plant capable of instantly healing injuries and restoring energy was their secret weapon. As Frieza monologued about his superiority, Kakarot bit down on the bean, feeling its effects immediately. Energy surged through his body. His wound closed, and with recovery came another Zenkai boost, his power spiking dramatically. Across the battlefield, he saw Krillin moving stealthily toward Vegeta's fallen form. Another senzu bean in hand, disappointing. Frieza concluded his speech. I expected more from the supposed elite of the Saiyan race. Any last words before you join your extinct species? Kakar rose to his feet, his power radiating outward invisible waves. Yes, never monologue before confirming your kill. The look of shock on Frieza's face as Kakarot's fist connected with his jaw was almost comical. The impact sent the tyrant hurtling backward, creating a furrow in the ground where he skidded to a stop. Impossible, Frieza sputtered, wiping purple blood from his lip. You were critically wounded. Sai resolve, Kakarot replied simply. Something you taught us well when you took everything from us. Across the battlefield, Vegeta had consumed his senzu bean and was rising. His power similarly increased from his near-death experience. The prince's eyes burned with renewed determination as he rejoined the fight. What followed was a desperate race against time. The Saiyans repeatedly pushed to their limits and recovered through strategic use of senzu beans, grew exponentially stronger with each near-death experience. Frieza, realizing the danger, escalated through his transformations, each more monstrous and powerful than the last. By the time he reached his final form, sleek and deceptively simple in appearance, the battlefield had been transformed into an apocalyptic wasteland. The Nomishan village was long gone, replaced by craters and mountains of rubble. This ends now, Frieza declared, his power in final form dwarfing everything that had come before. No more games, no more allowing you to recover. I will erase you from existence. As Frieza gathered energy for a planet-destroying attack, Vegeta and Kakarot stood side by side, battered but unbowed. Their power had grown astronomically, yet still fell short of Frieza's final form. Without another transformation of their own, the gap might prove insurmountable. We need something more, Kakarot said quietly. Something beyond what we are now? Vegeta nodded grimly. The legend, the Super Saiyan. If ever there was a moment for it to awaken, it is now. As Frieza's death ball grew above his finger, blocking out one of Nate's suns with its dark energy, the Saiyans faced their defining moment. Everything they had trained for, everything they had endured, led to this crossroads between survival and extinction, and somewhere deep within, something ancient stirred, responding to their desperate need and burning determination. Something that had waited 1,000 years for worthy vessels to contain its power. The golden legend of the Saiyans was about to be reborn. The massive death ball continued to grow above Frieza's extended finger, drawing energy from the tyrant's seemingly limitless reserves. Its dark surface rippled with destructive potential, capable of reducing planet name to cosmic dust. 30 seconds, Frieza announced with cruel pleasure. That is how long you have left to contemplate your complete failure. Your pathetic race ends today once and for all. Raditz arrived at the battlefield supporting an injured Nometian elder. He took in the situation with a tactical glance, immediately recognizing the severity of their predicament. The Ginyu force has been defeated, he reported quickly. We secured the final 2 Dragon Balls. It matters not, Frieza replied. You will all be atoms floating in space before you can make any wish. The Kian elder, despite his injuries, spoke with quiet dignity. You seek power that was never meant for one such as you. Frieza, the Dragon Balls were created to help those in need, not to enable greater destruction. Frieza laughed. Philosophy from a dying race. How touching. Kakarot turned to the Nekian. Is it true the Neon Dragon can grant 3 wishes? The elder nodded. Poranga answers 3 desires if called upon correctly in our native tongue. 20 seconds remained. The death ball now blotted out a significant portion of the sky, its gravitational pull affecting the landscape below. Get everyone to the ship, Vegeta ordered Raditz. Take all 7 Dragon Balls. If we fall, you must ensure the continuation of our race. Raditz hesitated, torn between obedience to his prince and abandoning his brother to certain death. Go, Kakarot insisted. Protect Earth. Remember what Grandfather Gohan taught us about safeguarding those who cannot protect themselves. Reluctantly, Raditz nodded and flew toward where Krillin and Tien were gathering the remaining fighters and Dragon Balls. 10 seconds. Any final words? Frieza asked, savoring his imminent victory. Vegeta and Kokoro looked at each other. A lifetime of rivalry and mutual respect communicated in a single glance. Without speaking, both understood what must be attempted. For our fathers, Vegeta said. For our planet, Kokoro added. For our future, they finished in unison. 5 seconds. The Saiyan warriors dropped into identical stances, their ki rising exponentially. Years of training together had created a synchronicity between them that transcended normal battle coordination. Their energy signatures, unique but complementary, began to resonate at the same frequency. Pathetic Frieza spat, preparing to launch his attack. 3 seconds. Deep within Kakarot's consciousness, something shattered. A mental wall erected by evolution to prevent bodies from channeling more power than they could contain. His mind flashed to Earth, to Grandpa Gohan, to everything he had sworn to protect. The thought of failing them, of Frieza eventually finding and destroying his adopted home, broke something fundamental inside him. 2 seconds within Vegeta, royal Saiyan blood boiled with centuries of pride and obligation. He was the prince of all Saiyans, the last of the royal line. If he fell here, their entire culture, history, and future would be extinguished. His father had died believing in him, sending him away to survive and someday avenge their people. That responsibility crushed against his mental barriers until they cracked. 1 second, die with your planet, Frieza screamed, hurling the death ball downward. In that moment, as annihilation rushed toward them, something miraculous occurred. The mental barriers within both Saiyans did not just crack, they shattered completely. Power erupted from within. Power they had always possessed but never accessed. Power born from the combination of elite Saiyan genetics and years of Earth's unique training. Golden light exploded outward so bright it momentarily blinded everyone present. The death ball struck this light and impossibly halted. For a moment, the two forces remained in stalemate, neither advancing nor retreating. Then, with a sound like reality itself tearing, the death ball was pushed back slowly at first, then with increasing speed until it shot back toward its creator. Frieza barely dodged his own attack, watching in disbelief as it continued into space where it detonated in a blinding flash that temporarily created a second sun in Nek's sky. When visibility returned, Frieza faced something from his darkest nightmares, where two Saiyan warriors had stood now hovered two golden figures, their hair transformed from black to brilliant gold, standing upright as if defying gravity itself. Their eyes, once dark, now shone with teal intensity. Golden auras surrounded them, crackling with electrical energy that scorched the ground beneath. "What is this?" Frieza whispered, genuine fear in his voice for the first time. Vegeta spoke, his voice deeper, resonating with newfound power. "This is what you feared enough to destroy our planet, the legend of our people made manifest. This is the Super Saiyan," Kakarot continued, his normally gentle expression replaced with determined judgment. "And your reckoning?" The battle that followed defied comprehension. Moving at speeds that rendered them nearly invisible, the Super Saiyans attacked with perfect coordination. What had been a desperate defense transformed into an overwhelming offense. Frieza, for all his tremendous power, found himself on the receiving end of an assault unlike anything he had ever experienced. His body, previously unmarked despite hours of combat, now collected wounds with alarming frequency. "Impossible," he shrieked, firing death beams in rapid succession. The energy attacks which had previously pierced Saiyan defenses now passed harmlessly through after images as the Golden Warriors moved faster than the beams themselves. "Nothing is impossible for those with the will to defend what matters," Kakarot replied, appearing behind Frieza to deliver a devastating kick that sent the tyrant crashing through an entire mountain range. Vegeta materialized in Frieza's path, hands cubed at his side. "Dalek Gun," he announced, releasing a massive wave of purplish energy tinged with golden light. The attack engulfed Frieza completely, carrying him into the upper atmosphere before detonating with force enough to be seen from space. But Frieza was not so easily defeated. Burned and bloodied, the Emperor descended, rage replacing his usual calculating demeanor. 100% power, he snarled, his muscles bulging as he accessed his absolute maximum. "I will not be humiliated by monkeys." His power doubled, then tripled, the sheer force of it causing tectonic disruptions across Namek. Fissures opened in the planet's surface, releasing pressurized magma from below. The seas began to churn and boil. Namek itself was beginning to destabilize from the energies being unleashed upon it. Even at full power, however, Frieza found the Super Saiyans more than his equal. Where one Saiyan might have struggled against his maximum output, the perfect teamwork of two was overwhelming. Every opening created by one was exploited by the other. Every counterattack was met with a perfect defense. "How?" Frieza demanded as a particularly devastating combination sent him crashing into a rapidly forming lava lake. "How have you achieved this power?" Kakarot hovered above him, golden aura reflecting off the molten surface. "By never forgetting what you took from us, by training every day with singular purpose, by combining the warrior spirit of the Saiyans with the techniques of Earth, and by finding something worth protecting," Vegeta added, appearing beside his fellow Super Saiyans, "something beyond ourselves." Frieza roared in frustrated rage, launching himself at the Saiyans with reckless abandon. His technique, normally precise and efficient, deteriorated into wild swings and desperate energy blasts. The landscape around them continued to fracture and collapse as next stability worsened. "The planet cannot withstand this level of power much longer," Kakarot observed as they easily avoided Frieza's increasingly erratic attacks. "We need to end this," Vegeta nodded grimly. Other than one final attack, they separated, positioning themselves on opposite sides of Frieza. The tyrant, sensing their strategy, attempted to escape upward, only to find Kakarot already there, blocking his path. "There is nowhere to run," Kakarot stated. "Justice has found you at last." Both Super Saiyans began charging their ultimate techniques developed through years of training together. Vegeta's gun, infused with Super Saiyan energy, grew to unprecedented levels. Opposite him, Kakarot prepared a Kamehame hat of similar magnitude, the blue energy wave tinged with golden light. Frieza, trapped between them, gathered his remaining strength for one last desperate attack. "I am Lord Frieza," he screamed, extending both hands outward. "I will not be defeated by Saiyan garbage." The three energy attacks released simultaneously, Frieza's beams splitting to target both Saiyans. For a brief moment, the three energy waves connected in perfect equilibrium, creating a nexus of power that illuminated the entire region. Then, with synchronization born from years of training together, Vegeta and Kakarot each poured additional power into their attacks. Their beams pushed forward, compressing Frieza's energy back toward him from both sides. "This cannot be happening." Frieza wailed as his own attack collapsed. The combined might of two Super Saiyan energy waves engulfed him completely. When the light faded and visibility returned, nothing remained of the tyrant but scattered fragments of his bioarmor, drifting down to the churning surface of the dying planet. Vegeta and Kakarot hovered in the air, their golden auras slowly fading as they powered down from their Super Saiyan transformations. Exhaustion hit them simultaneously, the toll of maintaining such incredible power finally catching up. "We did it," Kakarot said quietly. "After all these years," Vegeta nodded, unusually subdued in victory for our people, for our fathers. The moment of reflection was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire region. Massive geysers of lava erupted across the landscape as Name's core began to destabilize. "The planet is dying," Kakarot realized. "Our battle was too much for it to withstand." Without further discussion, they flew at maximum speed toward where their ship waited. Along the way, they gathered surviving Namekians, carrying as many as they could to safety. When they arrived, they found Bulma, Krillin, and the others had already prepared for emergency departure. The 7 Dragon Balls, larger and more ornate than Earth's, were gathered on the ship's deck. "The planet's core is destabilizing," Vegeta announced as they boarded. "We have minutes at most." Bulma activated launch procedures while the Namekian elder stepped forward. "We must use the Dragon Balls immediately," he insisted. "Piranga can save us all." With the ship hovering above the fracturing surface, the elder spoke words in the ancient Namekian language. The Dragon Balls glowed brilliantly, then shot beams of light skyward that coalesced into the form of an enormous dragon, far larger and more fearsome than Earth's Shenron. "I am Piranga," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Speak your 3 wishes, and I shall grant them." The Nakian elder spoke rapidly in his native tongue, translating for the others. "First, I wish for all Nakians killed by Frieza and his forces to be restored to life." Piranga's eyes glowed red. "Your wish is granted." Across the planet's surface, fallen Nemkians returned to life, confused but alive. "Second, I wish for all beings present on this planet except Frieza to be transported safely to planet Earth." Again, the dragon's eyes flashed. "Your wish is granted." In an instant, the entire group along with all surviving Namekians across the planet vanished from Namek, reappearing on Earth's surface near Capsule Corporation. "And third," the Elder continued, "I wish for a new planet to be created in a safe region of space with conditions identical to Namek where our people may rebuild." Poyanga's final acknowledgement echoed across space and time as the wish was granted. With that, the dragon vanished and the Namekian Dragon Balls rose into Earth's sky, transforming into stone before shooting off in different directions across the planet. As the gathered warriors and refugees looked up at Earth's blue sky, news reached them from across space. Planet Namek had exploded, taking with it the last remains of Frieza and his empire. Vegeta and Kakarot stood side by side, their battle-worn appearance contrasting with the peaceful Earth landscape around them. The prince glanced at his fellow Super Saiyan, a new respect evident in his expression. "What now, Kakarot? With Frieza defeated, what purpose remains for Super Saiyans?" Kakar looked around at their unusual assembly. Science and humans, Nometians, and other allies gathered together on the planet he had come to call home. "We rebuild," he said simply. "We protect and we prepare." "Prepare?" Vegeta raised an eyebrow. "Frieza was powerful, but the universe is vast. Other threats will emerge. Earth needs defenders, and our people need a future." For perhaps the first time, Vegeta smiled without sarcasm or aggression. "Then it seems our destiny continues. Kakarot, the legacy of the Saiyan race has only just begun." Above them, Earth's sky stretched endless and blue, promising not an ending, but a new beginning for the warriors who had journeyed so far from where they began. Elite Saiyan and Earth Defender, the dual heritage that had made them strong enough to achieve the impossible and fulfill the legend that had haunted their race for a millennium. The Super Saiyans had returned, and the universe would never be the same. 5 years passed on Earth. 5 years of peace, rebuilding, and preparation. The defeat of Frieza had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Power vacuums formed and collapsed as various factions attempted to claim portions of his fallen empire. But none dared approach Earth, now known throughout the cosmos as the home of the legendary Super Saiyans. Capsule Corporation had expanded dramatically, incorporating recovered alien technology into new innovations. A small city had grown around the main compound, housing both humans and the Nakian refugees who had chosen to remain on Earth rather than joining their brethren on New Namek. On a warm spring morning, Kakarot stood in a specialized training arena, observing his 5-year-old son Gohan as the boy practiced advanced ki control techniques. Named after the elderly martial artist who had first welcomed the Saiyans to Earth, young Gohan displayed extraordinary potential even by Saiyan standards. "Concentrate," Kakar instructed as Gohan attempted to maintain multiple energy spheres simultaneously. "Feel each one as an extension of yourself, not as separate entities." Gohan nodded, his face scrunched in concentration. The quarter Saiyan child born to Kakarot and his human wife Chi-Chi represented a new generation of hybrid vigor. His Saiyan strength combined with human adaptability created potential beyond what either race could achieve alone. Nearby, Vegeta supervised his own son, Trunks, whose lavender hair marked his mixed heritage. The Saiyan prince had eventually formed an unlikely bond with Bulma, their shared brilliance and stubborn pride, creating a formidable partnership that had produced an equally formidable offspring. Proper stance. Vegeta barked as 3-year-old Trunks attempted a complex katata. Power without control is useless. Despite his harsh tone, Vegeta's methods had softened over the years. The prince, who once spoke only of conquest, now emphasized protection and responsibility, though he would never admit how deeply Earth had changed him. The morning training session was interrupted by the arrival of Krillin, now sporting a short growth of hair rather than his former shaved head. The human warrior had continued his own development, becoming one of Earth's primary defenders alongside the Saiyans. Message from King Kai, Krillin announced, referring to the divine being who had established communication with Earth following the Namek incident. He says, "There's something approaching Earth, something powerful." Kakarot and Vegeta exchanged glances. Since achieving Super Saiyan status, both had continued pushing their limits, discovering new techniques and levels of power. They had even begun exploring the possibility of ascending beyond the initial Super Saiyan transformation. The children should remain here, Vegeta decided. Alert the others. We'll meet at the landing zone. Satellites had detected the approaching object, a spacecraft of unknown origin on course for a remote desert region. By the time Kakarot and Vegeta arrived, Tien, Raditz, and the other Z fighters had already assembled, prepared for potential conflict. The ship that descended from the clouds was unlike any they had seen before. Sleek and organic in design, it touched down with barely a sound, disturbing only a minimal amount of sand beneath its landing struts. Frieza's technology relied on brute force, observed Bulma, who had insisted on monitoring the situation from a safe distance. This is something far more advanced. A hatch opened in the vessel's side, revealing a tall, muscular figure with lavender hair. He appeared mostly human, though something in his bearing suggested otherwise. Most striking was his sword, a finely crafted blade rarely seen in an age of energy weapons. "Identify yourself," Vegeta called out, stepping forward as the prince and nominal leader of Earth Defenders. The stranger surveyed the assembled warriors, his gaze lingering on Vegeta and Kakarot. "My name is Trunks," he stated, causing immediate confusion. "I've come from 20 years in your future, and I bring a warning that will determine the fate of this timeline." Skepticism rippled through the group, but before anyone could object, the future Trunks transformed. Golden light erupted around him as his hair shifted from lavender to gold, the unmistakable aura of a Super Saiyan surrounding his form. "That's impossible," Vegeta whispered. "Only pure-blooded science should be capable of the transformation. In my time, the hybrid bloodline proved even more compatible with the Super Saiyan form." Future Trunks explained, powering down. "But that's not why I'm here. 3 years from now, this planet will face a threat unlike anything you've encountered. Even Frieza," he proceeded to explain, "a grim future where android creations of Dr. Gero, a scientist from the defunct Red Ribbon Army, emerged to wreak havoc on Earth. Designed specifically to kill Saiyans in revenge for the organization's earlier defeats, these androids possess power that dwarfed even Super Saiyans. In my timeline, most of you died in the initial confrontation." Future Trunks revealed solemnly, "Only Gohan survived to train me. For 20 years we fought a losing battle against the androids, watching Earth's population dwindle to the brink of extinction." "Why return now?" Kakarot asked. "Why not warn us earlier?" "Time travel has strict limitations," Trunks explained. "The further back I travel, the less time I can remain. This was the earliest point I could reach with enough energy to deliver the warning and return." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small container. "These are heart virus medications from my time. In my timeline, Kakarot died before the androids even appeared. Struck down by a virus that attacked his Saiyan-enhanced physiology. Our medical technology couldn't save him then, but this can prevent it now." Kakarot accepted the medicine with a solemn nod. "Thank you. But why would this Dr. Gero target us specifically? The Red Ribbon Army was disbanded decades ago." "Because in this timeline you've become public figures," Trunks explained. "Your defeat of Frieza made global news. Gero has been monitoring you, studying your techniques and physiology, creating perfect counterweapons." The implications settled heavily on the group. Their victory over Frieza while saving the universe from his tyranny had painted targets on their backs. 3 years, Vegeta mused. "Time enough to prepare if we use it wisely." Future Trunks nodded. "The androids of my time mentioned something called the hyperbolic time chamber. They destroyed it before we could locate it, but said it had been key to your preparation in other timelines." Krillin gasped in recognition. Kami mentioned such a place at the lookout, a room where time flows differently, where a day outside equals a year inside. "Then our path is clear," Kakaroto decided. "We train in this chamber, exceed our current limits, and prepare for the android threat." "There's more," Future Trunks added grimly. "The androids are only the beginning. In the shadows lurks another creation, a biological android named Cell, designed to absorb the others and achieve perfect form. In my timeline, he emerged too late to save us, but early enough to complicate matters." Vegeta's expression hardened with resolve. "Then we will be ready for both threats." The question is, will you stay to fight alongside us? Future Trunks shook his head reluctantly. I can remain only briefly. The time machine requires enormous energy, and I must return to my own timeline. My mother there still fights in her own way, leading what remains of human resistance. Your mother, Bulma said softly, studying the future warrior's features with new understanding. It's me, isn't it? That's why you keep looking at me. Future Trunks nodded, emotion briefly overcoming his warrior's composure. Yes, you created the time machine, working for decades to perfect it. Your last words to me were change everything. The revelation silenced the group. Here stood living proof of one possible future. A warning and opportunity combined in a single temporal paradox. As the meeting concluded, plans were made for the 3-year preparation period. The hyperbolic time chamber would be used in rotation, allowing each fighter limited time in its extreme conditions. New training regimens were designed to push beyond Super Saiyan, exploring the untapped potential of Saiyan biology. Before departing in his time machine, Future Trunks shared a moment alone with his infant self and the parents he had never known in his timeline. In my world, you died protecting me, he told Vegeta. Your last act was to place me in a pod, much like you were saved from Planet Vegeta's destruction. The cycle continued. Vegeta, uncomfortable with emotional displays, nonetheless placed a hand on his future son's shoulder. This time will be different. This time we face the threat together as Saiyans should. The time machine hummed to life, temporal energies swirling around it as Future Trunks prepared to return to his devastated world. I'll come back, he promised. Once I've delivered the news of this timeline's potential, I'll return to fight alongside you. With that, he vanished in a flash of light, leaving behind knowledge that would reshape their approach to the coming conflict. The 3 years that followed were defined by relentless preparation. The hyperbolic time chamber proved as valuable as promised, though its extreme conditions could only be endured for limited periods. Within its timeless void, both Kakarot and Vegeta pushed beyond the initial Super Saiyan form, discovering what they termed Ascended Saiyan and eventually Super Saiyan 2. A transformation that doubled the power of the original golden form. The human Z-fighters developed new techniques to compensate for their biological limitations, focusing on strategy and specialized abilities rather than raw power. Krillin refined his Destru multiple variants, each designed to counter specific threats. Teen developed his multiform technique to create not just copies but specialized combat entities. Most promising were the hybrid children, Gohan and Trunks, whose mixed heritage seemed to create unique advantages. Though still too young for frontline combat, they absorbed training at an accelerated rate, mastering techniques that had taken their parents years to perfect. Finally, the day arrived that Future Trunks had warned about. May 12th, 3 years after his visit, found the Z-fighters assembled outside South City, where the first android attacks were predicted to occur. Remember the plan, Kakarot reminded everyone as they took their positions. We identify their capabilities before engaging directly. No heroics, no individual confrontations. We fight as a unit. Vegeta, typically dismissive of tactical restraint, nodded in agreement. The future Trunks had described was too grim to risk through pride or impetuousness. The morning passed without incident, leading some to wonder if their presence had already altered the timeline enough to prevent the attack. Then, at precisely 10:17 a.m., explosions rocked the southern district of the city. From their vantage point, the defenders watched as two figures emerged from the smoke. One resembled an elderly man with long white hair and a prominent mustache. The other appeared more mechanical, bulky, and imposing with a mohawk-like feature on an otherwise metallic head. Dr. Grow himself. Kakarot realized, recognizing the elderly figure from Bulma's research files, he must have transferred his consciousness into an android body, and the other must be Android 19, the first of his combat models, Vegeta added, just as Future Trunks described. The androids moved methodically through the city, seemingly searching for something or someone. With each passing minute, their path of destruction widened, civilian casualties mounting. We need to engage now, Tien urged. While there are still people to save, Kakarot nodded grimly. Remember, they're designed to counter Saiyan biology specifically. Don't let them make contact. They can absorb energy directly through their hands. The Z-fighters descended into the city, positioning themselves in the android's path. Dr. Guro halted immediately upon seeing them, recognition evident in his artificial features. Ah, the Saiyans and their human pets, he remarked, his voice carrying electronic undertones. Right on schedule, though. I expected to hunt you down rather than have you delivered to me. Your androids will never threaten this world, Gro. Kakarot stated firmly. Your vendetta ends today. Euro laughed, the sound unnaturally processed. Vendetta, this is evolution, monkey. The replacement of outdated biological weapons with perfect mechanical ones. Your defeat of Frieza merely confirmed what my calculations already suggested, that Saiyans represent the pinnacle of biological combat potential, the perfect templates from which to design your successors. Enough talk. Vegeta cut in. You came for a fight. You found one. What followed was nothing like the one-sided slaughter future Trunks had described from his timeline. Prepared and coordinated, the Z fighters executed their strategy with precision. Energy attacks were used sparingly, denying the androids their primary absorption method. Physical combat was conducted in rotating pairs, preventing fatigue and allowing tactical repositioning. Most critically, Kakarot and Vegeta remained in their base forms, conserving their Super Saiyan transformations for the moment of greatest tactical advantage. This confused the androids, whose combat programming expected immediate transformation. "Something is wrong," Garo muttered as another coordinated attack drove Android 19 backward. "Their combat patterns do not match my data. Their power levels are constrained." The battle reached its climax when Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha executed a perfectly timed distraction, creating an opening for the Saiyans to strike, transforming simultaneously into their Super Saiyan 2 forms. Kakarot and Vegeta unleashed devastating attacks on the unsuspecting androids. Vegeta's final flash vaporized Android 19 completely. Kakarot's instant ki Hamiha, a technique combining instant transmission with his signature energy wave, severely damaged Jero, removing one arm and half his facial features. The damaged doctor attempted retreat, his mechanical body smoking and malfunctioning. This changes nothing. He spat as he fled toward the mountains. 17 and 18 are already complete, and Cell incubates even now gathering strength. You have won nothing but time. The Z fighters pursued, tracking Jiro to his hidden laboratory nestled deep within the northern mountains. There they discovered two stasis pods, each containing a seemingly human figure and a larger incubation chamber housing an insect-like embryo. The other androids Kakarot identified and Cell in his larval form. "Destroy them now while they remain inactive," Vegeta urged, gathering energy for another attack. But before they could act, Dr. Gar reached the control panel with his remaining arm. "Too late," he cackled. "Meet perfection." The stasis pods hissed open, revealing a young man and woman, both with cold blue eyes and impassive expressions. Unlike the obviously mechanical 19, these models appeared fully human aside from small red ribbon army insignias on their clothing. Android 17, the male identified himself calmly. Android 18, the female added, their gazes swept over the assembled fighters before settling on their creator. Without warning or apparent emotion, Android 17 stepped forward and drove his hand through Gerolunk, his chest, destroying his core processor. "That concludes our association," Dr. 17 stated as Jiro's mechanical body collapsed. The Z fighters tensed, prepared for immediate battle, but the androids made no aggressive moves. Instead, they examined the laboratory with mild curiosity. "Your energy signatures exceed our data parameters," 18 observed. "Interesting discrepancy." "The timeline has changed," Kakarot explained cautiously. "We know of your activation in advance. We prepared accordingly." 17 raised an eyebrow. "Timeline manipulation, statistically improbable but evidently possible. This introduces variables not accounted for in our programming." The androids exchanged a look that somehow communicated complex information despite showing minimal expression. "Our primary directive was to destroy Kakarot and associated Saiyan entities," 18 stated. "However, our secondary protocols grant operational independence once activated, a design flaw the doctor likely regretted in his final moments." "Are you saying you don't intend to carry out your programming?" Krillin asked, confusion evident. 17 shrugged casually. "We're saying we have choices. Destroying you was Gerolonk's obsession, not ours. Our enhanced intelligence allows us to question the rationality of continuing a vendetta that no longer serves any purpose." This unexpected development created a momentary impasse. The Z fighters had prepared for all-out combat, not philosophical negotiation with self-aware artificial beings. "And what about him?" Vegeta demanded, gesturing toward the incubation chamber containing Cell's embryonic form. 18 glanced at the chamber dispassionately. "Cell's programming is singular and hardwired. Absorption of compatible androids to achieve perfect form. Unlike us, he lacks behavioral discretion." "Then he represents a threat to everyone," Kakarot concluded, "including you two." 17 nodded. "Correct assessment. Our data indicates Cell's perfect form would possess power exceeding all current entities on Earth. A scenario without clear benefit." Without further discussion, 17 raised his hand and fired a precise energy beam that shattered the incubation chamber, destroying the embryonic cell before he could develop further. "Problem solved," 17 stated. "We'll take our leave now unless you intend to destroy us as well." The Zich fighters exchanged uncertain glances. These androids were nothing like the mindless killing machines future Trunks had described. They displayed reason, independence, even a form of morality, albeit one based on logical assessment rather than emotion. "What will you do?" Kakarot finally asked. 18 considered the question. Explore, learn, exist. Our power cores are perpetual. Our potential lifespans exceed current calculation parameters. The world contains sufficient points of interest to occupy us indefinitely, and you won't harm innocence. Krill impines something in his expression suggesting unexpected interest in 18's response. Harm lacks utility in our current paradigm. She replied, destruction of non-threatening entities serves no logical purpose. With that surprisingly reasonable statement, the androids departed, leaving the Z-fighters in the ruined laboratory contemplating an outcome none had anticipated. Should we stop them? Yamcha wondered aloud. On what grounds? Tien countered. They've committed no crimes beyond destroying their creator, who was attempting to use them as weapons of mass destruction. Vegeta snorted. Their very existence is an affront. Machines designed to exceed Saiyan power, and yet they chose not to fight. Kakar pointed out. Perhaps this is the better outcome. The threat neutralized without further bloodshed. As they destroyed the remaining laboratory equipment to prevent its future misuse, a temporal disturbance signaled the return of future Trunks. The time traveler emerged looking battle-worn but determined. His shock upon learning of the peaceful resolution with the androids was exceeded only by his disbelief at Cell's casual destruction. In my timeline, they were monsters, he insisted. Killing for sport, destroying entire cities on whims. Perhaps they were, Kakaroto acknowledged, but these androids seem to have evolved beyond their programming. Or perhaps your warnings created a butterfly effect, changing subtle aspects of their development. Vegeta approached his future son with rare openness. You succeeded, boy. Your intervention altered destiny. The androids are neutralized, Cell is destroyed, and Earth remains secure. Future Trunks absorbed this emotion, threatening to overwhelm his warrior's composure. Then my mother's final wish is fulfilled. Everything has changed. As they left the mountains, returning to the peace they had successfully preserved, Kakarot reflected on how far they had come from that day when a Saiyan pod crashed near Grandpa Gohan's home. From refugee children to Earth's defenders, they had transcended the limitations of both their Saiyan heritage and Earth upbringing, creating something new and powerful in the combination. The threat future Trunks had warned about had been averted through preparation, coordination, and unexpected developments. But as King Kai had reminded them, the universe was vast and ancient, filled with powers and entities beyond current comprehension. Today's victory ensured tomorrow's peace, but the journey of the Saiyan warriors and their Earth allies was far from complete. The legacy of Planet Vegeta lived on, not as conquerors but as protectors, and in that transformation lay their greatest victory of all. 10 years passed in relative peace. Earth prospered under the watchful protection of its Saiyan and human defenders. The androids, true to their word, had simply integrated into society, appearing occasionally in random locations around the world, observing humanity with detached curiosity. Android 18 had even formed an unexpected relationship with Krillin, their unlikely bond proving that destinies could be rewritten in the most surprising ways. Capsule Corporation had become the center of a new global initiative, combining Saiyan knowledge with Earth innovation to advance civilization beyond what either culture could have achieved alone. Space exploration had expanded exponentially with outposts established on Mars and several moons of Jupiter. Earth was taking its first steps toward becoming a significant galactic presence. On a cool autumn morning, Kakarot stood atop the lookout, the floating sanctuary created by Earth's guardian. Beside him stood his son Gohan, now 15 years old and already showing mastery of the Super Saiyan transformation. The boy had his father's power and his mother's intellect, a combination that made him perhaps the most promising warrior of the new generation. Focus on the feeling, not the form, Kakarot instructed as Gohan attempted to reach Super Saiyan 2. The transformation comes from need, not desire. Gohan nodded, his golden aura flaring around him as he pushed deeper into his reserves. Sparks of electricity began to crackle around his form, signaling the approach of the ascended state. Their training session was interrupted by the arrival of Vegeta and his son Trunks. The Saiyan prince had mellowed slightly over the years, though his pride remained intact. His son, now 13, carried himself with the same royal bearing, though tempered by Bulma's scientific curiosity. Kakarot, Vegeta called out, his tone indicating this was not a social visit. King Kai has made contact. There is a situation requiring our attention. The Divine Overseer of the North Galaxy had become an important ally over the years, providing warning of potential threats before they reached Earth. His communication now, after years of silence, suggested something significant. What's happened? Kakarot asked, powering down from his training state. A disturbance in Otherworld, Vegeta explained, referring to the spiritual realm where souls went after death. Some entity called Janemba has disrupted the balance between dimensions. The barrier between living and dead is weakening. Is that why there have been ghost sightings reported around the world? Gohan asked, revealing his awareness of recent unusual events. Vegeta nodded, merely the beginning. If the barrier collapses completely, every being ever sent to hell would return to the living world simultaneously. The implications were staggering. Millennia of malevolent entities, including Frieza and countless other tyrants from across the universe, potentially returning at once. King Kai says we must travel to other world ourselves. Vegeta continued as living beings with sufficient power to navigate the dimensional barriers. How do we get there without dying? Trunks asked the practical question. Fortunately, I think I might help with that. The voice came from behind them, cheerful and familiar. They turned to find a short, blue-skinned being with antennae and ornate robes standing on the lookout. Supreme Kai, overseer of the universe and highest of the divine hierarchy they had encountered. The situation in Otherworld has become dire enough to warrant direct intervention, Supreme Kai explained. I can transport living beings temporarily across the barrier, but only those with power significant enough to withstand the transition. The children stay here. Kakarot decided immediately. Earth needs defenders in our absence. Though Gohan and Trunks protested, the wisdom of ensuring Earth's protection prevailed. With arrangements made for the planet's defense, including alerting the androids to the potential threat, Kakarot and Vegeta prepared for their journey to Otherworld. I should warn you, Supreme Kai cautioned as he prepared the transportation ritual. Time flows differently there. What might seem like hours to you could be days here. We must resolve this quickly. With a flash of divine light, the Saiyan warriors vanished from the lookout, transported across dimensional boundaries to a realm no living being was meant to enter. They materialized on a crystal path suspended in a kaleidoscopic void. The path stretched endlessly in both directions, connecting floating islands of varying sizes. Some appeared peaceful with lush landscapes and serene features. Others were shrouded in darkness emanating malevolent energy. Heaven and hell, Supreme Kai explained, gesturing to the contrasting realms, normally separated by impenetrable barriers now bleeding into each other due to Janemba's influence. As if summoned by his name, a tremor shook the crystal path. In the distance, a massive figure emerged from a tear in reality itself. Yamba appeared childlike in facial features, but monstrous in form, his purple skin crackling with energy that distorted everything around him. What is that thing? Vegeta demanded, instinctively dropping into a defensive stance. A manifestation of all the evil energy accumulated in the soul cleansing station, Supreme Kai explained. Centuries of malice condensed into a single entity given form and consciousness by the recent influx of particularly powerful evil souls. Frieza Kakaro realized his energy has been corrupting this realm since we sent him here. Supreme Kai nodded grimly among others. Janemba possesses reality warping abilities unlike anything in living memory. He must be defeated before the dimensional barriers collapse completely. The challenge before them was unlike any they had faced. As living beings in the realm of the dead, they were already at a disadvantage. Moreover, Janemba's abilities defied conventional physics. He could teleport instantaneously, transform matter with a thought, and even reshape portions of Otherworld to suit his whims. Their initial assault proved futile. Energy attacks passed harmlessly through his malleable form. Physical strikes connected but caused no lasting damage as his body simply reformed. Worse, each failed attack seemed to amuse the childlike entity, encouraging more chaotic transformations of the environment around them. This isn't working, Kakarot called out as they regrouped after another unsuccessful exchange. He's not fighting conventionally, he's playing with reality itself. Vegeta, breathing heavily despite his tremendous conditioning, nodded in agreement. We need something beyond our current abilities, something he can't simply warp around. As they strategized, a familiar figure approached along the crystal path, tall and muscular with a red mohawk and clothing marked with hero kanji. The newcomer radiated confidence. Pikkon Supreme Kai greeted the warrior with evident relief. Your timing is fortunate. The warrior nodded respectfully. I was monitoring the situation from the Grand Kai's planet. This entity has already consumed several sections of Otherworld, including parts of Hell. Some of its former residents have escaped the confusion. This news added urgency to their mission. If souls from Hell were already escaping, the situation on Earth could deteriorate rapidly. Do you have experience with such creatures? Kakarot asked. Pan shook his head. Nothing precisely like this, but I have observed its patterns. Yania seems unable to warp things that are perfectly synchronized or harmonized. His chaos cannot corrupt perfect order. This insight provided the foundation for a new strategy. The Saiyan warriors had occasionally combined their techniques for greater effect, but what Pikkon suggested went beyond mere coordination. The Metamaran fusion technique Supreme Kai suggested, an ancient method allowing two compatible warriors to temporarily become a single entity, combining their powers multiplicatively rather than additively. Fusion, Vegeta repeated incredulously. Sacrifice my individual identity to merge with Kakarot. Absurd, not sacrifice. Supreme Kai clarified. Synergize. The resulting fusion would possess characteristics of both participants, but with power far beyond either individual, and it's temporary, lasting only 30 minutes. As Janemba's reality distortion spread further, consuming more of Otherworld and weakening the barriers between dimensions, Vegeta's resistance faltered. Pride meant nothing if reality itself unraveled. Teach us this. Technique, he finally agreed. Quickly, the fusion dance, as Supreme Kai demonstrated, required perfect symmetry and synchronization between participants. Their power levels needed to be exactly matched. Their movements had to mirror each other with flawless precision. And most challenging for Vegeta's pride, it required a series of somewhat undignified poses culminating in finger contact between the participants. This is humiliating, the prince muttered as they practiced the sequence under Pikan's watchful eye, the warrior holding Anumba at bay temporarily. Consider the alternative, Kakara reminded him. Earth overrun by every villain we've ever defeated while we're trapped here, unable to help. After several failed attempts resulting in a comically obese fusion, and then an impossibly thin one, they finally achieved the correct form. As their fingertips connected with perfect synchronization, blinding light engulfed both warriors. Where two Saiyans had stood now stood a single entity, neither Kakarot nor Vegeta, but something new. His hair combined elements of both, standing upright in golden Super Saiyan form with streaks resembling Vegeta's widow's peak. His face carried Kakarot's softer features with Vegeta's sharp expressions. The fusion wore a vest combining elements of both warriors' preferred attire. I am neither Kakarot nor Vegeta, the fusion announced, his voice carrying harmonic overtones of both contributors. I am Gogeta. The power radiating from Gogeta dwarfed anything previously witnessed in either dimension. Supreme Kai stepped back, all rocked by the energy signature before him. Such power, he whispered, perhaps even beyond a destroyer god. Gogeta turned toward Janemba, who had returned from his battle with Pikan and now observed the new warrior with childlike curiosity. For the first time, the chaos entity seemed uncertain, sensing the perfect harmony within the fusion that directly countered his entropic nature. The battle that followed defied description in conventional terms. Gogeta moved with impossible speed, appearing simultaneously in multiple locations as if the laws of physics were mere suggestions. His attacks carried the technical precision of Vegeta combined with the adaptive creativity of Kakarot, executed with power that caused ripples in the fabric of Otherworld itself. Most importantly, Yamba could not counter or warp these attacks. The perfect balance within Gogeta created techniques impervious to chaos manipulation. Each strike landed with devastating effect, fragmenting portions of Jamba's form that could not simply regenerate as before. Realizing his disadvantage, Shinya attempted to flee, opening dimensional rifts to escape. Gogeta pursued effortlessly, his perfect ki control allowing him to navigate between dimensions as easily as stepping through a doorway. The final confrontation occurred at the heart of Otherworld, where the soul cleansing station had been corrupted into Gamei's twisted throne. Gathering energy for his ultimate technique, Gogeta formed a sphere of concentrated power between his palms. Stardust Breaker, he announced, the attack named spontaneously through the combined knowledge of both warriors. The sphere containing perfectly balanced energy from both Saiyan contributors shattered into countless particles as it struck Janemba. These particles penetrated the entity's form, introducing perfect order into chaotic structure. Like matter meeting antimatter, the conflicting natures annihilated each other. Janemba released a final childlike wail as his form disintegrated, leaving behind only the cleansing machine that had been corrupted by evil energy. Throughout Otherworld, reality began restoring itself. Dimensional barriers solidified. Escaped souls were drawn back to their proper locations. As the crisis resolved, Gogeta observed with satisfaction. Then, as the 30-minute limit approached, the fusion separated, returning Kakarot and Vegeta to their individual forms. That was Vegeta began struggling to articulate the experience. Not entirely unpleasant. Kakar grinned. High praise coming from you. The power was incredible. Beyond incredible, Supreme Kai corrected, approaching with Pion. You achieved something I've only heard about in ancient texts. Perfect fusion, where the result exceeds the mathematical sum of its parts exponentially. Could we use this technique in the living world? Kakarot asked, already considering future applications. Supreme Kai nodded. The dance itself has no dimensional limitations. Though I would caution using such power frivolously. The living realm may not withstand its full force as easily as Otherworld. With the barriers between dimensions restored, they prepared to return to Earth. However, before Supreme Kai could initiate the transfer, a distinguished voice called out from nearby, leaving so soon without even a proper introduction. The speaker was tall and feline in appearance, wearing ornate Egyptian-style clothing and radiating divine energy far surpassing even Supreme Kai. Beside him stood a taller, thinner being with blue skin and white hair, carrying a staff and wearing more formal attire. Lord Beerus, Supreme Kai said immediately, bowing deeply, and Whis, this is unexpected, God of Destruction. Whis introduced his companion to the confused Saiyans responsible for maintaining cosmic balance by eliminating excess creation when necessary. Beerus studied the Saiyan warriors with predatory interest. So these are the monkeys who defeated Frieza and now disrupt my nap with their dimensional meddling curious specimens. We were resolving a crisis, Kakarot explained carefully, sensing the incredible power before them, restoring proper order to Otherworld. Yes, Beerus waved dismissively, and creating power signatures that woke me from a 70-year sleep in the process. Do you have any idea how irritable I get when awakened prematurely? Vegeta, recognizing the danger, stepped forward. Lord Beerus, we apologize for any disturbance. As Prince of all science, I take responsibility. Beerus raised an eyebrow. Prince, I was under the impression your species was nearly extinct, making your title somewhat ceremonial. We survive and thrive on Earth, Kakarot stated proudly, a new beginning for our people alongside humanity. This seemed to interest the destroyer god. Earth, that backwater planet with the delicious food. The one with that divine substance called pudding. Whis chuckled softly. My lord has quite the sweet tooth. Perhaps we should visit this Earth, sample its cuisine properly. An excellent suggestion, Beerus agreed, his mood shifting abruptly. You two shall accompany us. Consider it penance for disturbing my slumber. Supreme Kai looked horrified at the prospect of a destroyer god visiting Earth, but could offer no objection. Within moments, Beerus and Whis had transported the entire group back to Earth, arriving at Capsule Corporation, where a celebration was already underway. The gathering marked the anniversary of Frieza's defeat, a holiday that had become tradition among the extended Zadfighter family. Tables laden with food surrounded the compound's garden, where humans, science, and even the androids mingled peacefully. Beerus surveyed the scene with evident interest, particularly focusing on the buffet tables. Perhaps this disturbance has its compensations after all. What followed was a tense but ultimately peaceful introduction of the god of destruction to Earth's defenders. Alma, never one to be intimidated even by divine beings, immediately insisted on proper hospitality, directing the kitchen staff to prepare special dishes for their unexpected guests. As Beerus sampled Earth cuisine with growing enthusiasm, Whis engaged the Saiyan warriors in more serious conversation. You should know, he informed them quietly, that Lord Beerus had a prophetic dream during his slumber. A dream about a Super Saiyan god. Super Saiyan god? Kakarot repeated, exchanging confused glances with Vegeta. We've achieved Super Saiyan and its ascended states, but never heard of such a transformation. It is said to be the original form, Whis explained. The divine template from which the standard Super Saiyan derived, diluted through generations. Lord Beerus fought such a being once eons ago, before your planet Vegeta was even colonized by your ancestors. This revelation opened new possibilities. If Super Saiyan 2 had doubled the power of the original transformation, what might a divine version accomplish? How would one achieve this form? Vegeta asked, his interest evident despite his attempt at casual inquiry. Whis smiled knowingly. That remains to be discovered. Perhaps it requires a certain number of righteous Saiyans combining their energy. Perhaps it awakens only in response to a threat of divine magnitude. But the fact that you achieved perfect fusion suggests you might be compatible with divine ki, the energy of the gods themselves. The conversation was interrupted by an excited exclamation from Beerus, who had discovered ice cream and was experiencing brain freeze for the first time, much to the alarm of everyone present. After the Destroyer God recovered from this novel sensation, he approached the Scan Warriors with unexpected seriousness. Your little fusion technique interested me, he admitted. You mortal creations can generate energy signatures detectable across dimensions. If this Super Saiyan God from my dreams exists, you too might be the key to finding it. Are you suggesting we search for this transformation? Kakarot asked. I'm suggesting, Beerus clarified, that I might be persuaded to oversee your training personally. Or rather, Whis would handle the tedious details. I would observe when not otherwise occupied with destruction duties or napping. The offer stunned both warriors. Training under beings of divine status would open entirely new realms of potential. Why would you make such an offer? Vegeta questioned suspiciously. Beerus shrugged casually. Cosmic balance requires appropriate counterweights. Creation needs destruction, but also protection. The universe has grown stagnant during my extended naps. Perhaps it needs new players on the cosmic stage. As the celebration continued around them, Kakarot and Vegeta contemplated this unexpected development. From refugee children of a destroyed world to potential students of divine beings, their journey had taken yet another extraordinary turn. Across the garden, Gohan and Trunks trained with the younger children, including Goten, Kakarot's second son, and Bulla, Vegeta's daughter. The next generation of hybrid Saiyans displayed power and potential that exceeded even their parents at similar ages. Watching them, Kakara reflected on how different their lives were from what might have been had his power level remained low at birth. Had he been sent alone to Earth as a conqueror rather than arriving as an elite refugee with his prince and companions, how differently might history have unfolded? The divergence point that had changed everything. A simple power reading that elevated a low-class infant to elite status had created ripples that transformed not just his destiny but the destiny of planets, galaxies, and perhaps now even divine realms. As evening fell and Beerus contentedly dozed after sampling every dessert available, Kakarot and Vegeta stood on a balcony overlooking the celebration, the stars visible above them. "Planet Vegeta is up there somewhere," Vegeta said quietly. "Or would be, if it still existed, our starting point. And now we stand at another beginning," Kakarot observed. "Divine Key Super Saiyan God training with the attendant of a destroyer. Our journey continues." Vegeta nodded, rare contentment in his expression. The pride of the Saiyan race lives on. Kakarot, not as conquerors, but as something perhaps more worthy. Defenders of a universe we once would have subjugated. Our fathers would be proud, Kakarot said with certainty. They saved us so we could live, and we have lived well. Below them, the next generation of Earth's defenders celebrated life and peace, unaware of the cosmic destiny unfolding around them. The legacy of Planet Vegeta, transformed through sacrifice and growth, now extended toward divine potential and responsibilities beyond mortal comprehension. The elite child who might have been sent away alone, who might have hid his head and forgotten his heritage, instead had retained his identity while embracing a new home. The proud prince, who might have arrived as a conqueror, had instead grown into a protector. Together, they had rewritten not just their own destinies, but the destiny of the universe itself. And somewhere in the cosmos, watching over reality's endless complexity, fate smiled at how a single divergent moment could create such profound and beautiful change.